Hello, everybody. Welcome into our latest live broadcast. It's Tuesday. It's the 28th of April, 2026. My name is CareyHolzman, and today we're going to pick up from where we left off from Sunday show, where we were looking at this Firebat Mini PC. And I didn't like the way the operating system was installed, so we wiped it clean, started all over again, and then we had some trouble locating a device in the device manager, which we eventually got figured out, but then ran out of time. So today we want to pick up where we left off, which is to open the machine up and see what's inside of it, what's upgradable, as well as run our benchmarks from Crystal Diskmark and Cinebench, and take a look into the BIOS. That's the plan for today. We are very thorough, much more thorough than any other YouTube channel when it comes to these kind of reviews. People are mostly making commercials on YouTube now. I don't know how many of you realize it, but most of the reviews you're watching are nothing more than paid advertisements. So I want you to be aware of it, because when you see a video that's under 10 minutes long, you're pretty much watching an advertisement, just in general. And if you're okay with it, I'm okay with it. But if you really want an in-depth overview, a detailed look at what your $400 will buy you, you're not going to find that anywhere else but here, because we do get into the nooks and crannies and we talk about things that, you know, if you decide to make a purchase on a 10-minute video, you're going to be learning some things about what you bought. But if you make your purchase based on watching one of our much longer videos, you'll have a complete understanding of exactly what you're getting, and there should not be anything that surprises you or is unexpected. It's because we get into all those details. So that's why we sometimes have to extend these videos into a part 2 to continue that level of thoroughness. And it's something I wish there was more of on YouTube, but unfortunately there isn't, so that's why I do it. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Hope you're all having a great day. I see all our friends in green hanging out with us, and our friends over at VIP-URCDKEys who sponsor us here. Thank you to them for offering these discounted Windows and Office license keys to our audience. This is where I go for my business. And trying to find legitimate license keys at a discount price online where they're backed up and supported is a challenge. But I have to do it for my business. So I reached out to them once I found them and said, wow, they're the real deal. And I ran them through a bunch of, not simulations, but I had some machines and I wanted to verify that they were everything they claimed to be. Because up until that point, all the other companies made all the same claims, but they didn't back them up. So I was really happy to find them. And I thought, you know, this would be a great thing to offer to our audience, because we're a Windows-based channel. So sooner or later, you likely need a Windows license or you need an Office license. And so frustrating when people get taken advantage of. It really angers me. So if you don't want to be taken advantage of and you want to make sure you get a real legitimate license that has support, you definitely want to check out VIP-URCDKEys. So the way you would do that, if I'm going to pull up a video here from last month. So here's an example of last month's video, and you'll find this in all my live videos. Just scroll down underneath the video where it shows the video description here, and it says more. Click on more, and you're going to see all the links for whatever we were talking about in that video. And along with that, these links to Office and Windows, both Windows 10, Windows 11, and older and even more current versions of Office. And you can always search for that in Google or whatever, but if you just want to be taken there, one click and it'll take you right there. What we'll do is if we hit, like here, this is Windows 10 Pro, we hit the Buy Now button, and then we have to sign in. Creating an account is free, and you must create an account in order for them to securely send you your product key. How else are they going to give you your product key? So once you've created the account and then you add that to your cart, put in the coupon code CAREY if you want to save 25%. You don't have to enter that coupon code if you don't want to. You just don't need to save the 25%, then don't bother put the coupon code in. But if you do want to save 25%, you'll see the price dropped right there, and then just submit your order, and you can pay with the first option is PayPal, which also takes all the major credit cards, then Visa, MasterCard, Google Pay, etc., etc. After you've done all that and you hit the Pay Now button, everything else is automated, and this runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Within about 2 minutes, you should have an email with a download link to the software in case you don't have it. I already have. I've shown you guys how to download Windows, for example. So I wouldn't download a link to Windows when I already have Windows. But those downloads do point you to Microsoft. They don't point you to some website somewhere, you know, that's sketchy or third party. It's directly from Microsoft. And they give you some basic instructions along with your product key. And that's it. Should all be pretty much easy peasy. And if anything is confusing or doesn't seem to work, you reach out to their support and they're available. I don't know what their hours are, but they stand behind their product 100%, and you get 6 months of free support. On top of that, you can always reach out to me, of course. I have nothing to do with VIP-URCDKEYs other than I count on them as a partner in my business, as a provider of the Windows and Office that I provide to my customers. That is not an easy bar to pass. So if I'm able to use them and I have peace of mind that if my customers have any problems, they come to me. I know if I have any problems with the Windows or Office keys, I go to them and they always take care of me. So with that, shout out and thank you to those folks as well. And to everybody in green joining us, welcome in. A shout out to our friend Buster, who sends an Amazon gift card prior to the show starting. And thank you as always. Oh, there's Frankie B. So yesterday, Frankie's computer came in yesterday. It was supposed to be here today, came in yesterday. So we ended up doing that during the members only video. Unfortunately, we don't really know what we did to fix it, so there may not be a public video of this. But while we're in there, it does appear that the BIOS battery may be dead. So I ordered some new BIOS batteries. They're available on Amazon. It's not just the battery, it's shrink wrapped with wires attached to it with a small connector. And I'm hoping I got the right ones with a matching connector. Those should be here at some point today, and off camera, I'll go ahead and replace the BIOS battery. And hopefully that'll resolve another issue, a very minor issue, but nonetheless, you know, if it's not exactly perfect, you know me. Hopefully that'll take care of it. I'll find out after the show. And if it does, then we can send that right back over to Frankie and we're done. So good to see Frankie in there, and welcome in. And that's where we're at with Frankie's computer. It's very frustrating to not know how we fixed it. It's all on camera, and I can play it back and watch it, and I'm still as dumbfounded. It makes no sense to me, but we'll have to get, if some more computers come in with that same boot certificate error, then I'm sure I'll be able to narrow down precisely what it is. I think we'll probably be seeing more of those between now and July, but maybe not. Hard to say. There was also a BIOS update, pretty significant one, that may have been the cause of Frankie's problem as well. But other than that, you know, we couldn't put the BIOS update in until we got past the secure boot. So we were kind of stuck where, okay, it's getting a secure boot error, but maybe the BIOS fixes it. But to put the BIOS in, we got to boot first. So by the time we fixed it, we were able to boot. We really didn't need the BIOS update anymore, except to prevent it from happening again. So that's where we're at with it right now, and it's still in process. But that's not bad. I mean, we literally haven't had it 24 hours yet, and it's already mostly fixed. So I'm pretty proud of myself, even if I don't know exactly what I did. Welcome in, everybody. Let me say hello to everyone here before we get started. I see lots of familiar names and friendly, I'd say friendly faces, but friendly avatars out there. Yeah, Frankie says, I can't figure it out either. It doesn't make any sense. But I think it's related to the old BIOS that was on the machine. It wasn't even in version 1 yet. Isaiah says hello. And I also see Montana and Jonathan Fells, John Lewis and Marsman50, Eddie Castanova, Kevin Sigler, Shane Perkins and Rick Lakes, Jim Kenny and Mark Gaines, Jose Lopez and Rick Lakes. Joining us and saying hello also is John Williams and Ben Laird, 3D Everything and Bradley Morris, Luke Greenia and Dustin Fuller, Mark Gaines and of course Frankie B, Caniac44 and Mike Gamer are joining us in our live chat room right now. We are broadcasting live from Phoenix, Arizona, and interacting with everybody in our chat room. If you want to be a part of it, come on in. I also see Andy W6AD and Frank Jimmy saying hello. Frank notices the change of the bat's head to Firecat Sable. You're having a little fun with that. Let's see, who else is in here? Did I get everyone? Stephen Detroit says hello. Corey Man and Mr. Vizio are joining us as well. Welcome in, Al. Welcome in. All right, so the first thing I think I want to do for part 2 is just open this thing up. I'm very curious about what's upgradable in here. Is the RAM soldered in? I think everything's upgradable, but let's just open it and see. So the first thing we're going to have to do, unfortunately, I'm not a fan of when they cover up the screws with these rubber feet. I don't know why they couldn't just move the rubber feet over. And it's not like it's covering up the unsightly view of a screw. When that's the part facing down, you'll never see it anyway. So the reason this bothers me is every time we have to take this any rubber feet off the bottom, if they're being held on with sticky tape, which these are, the sticky tape becomes less sticky every single time we remove it. You can even see on this, the tape has folded in on itself. So that's just not going to stick as well on that one side because it folded over. Maybe I could straighten it back out. Or sometimes the tape gets stuck, and instead of coming off with the rubber foot, it comes off onto the recessed area in which it sits. And then they just, you know, for all of those reasons and more, the adhesive properties just start to degrade. And then before you know it, you have feet that won't stick anymore. So if you're only going to open this up once, it's probably not a big deal. But if you're one of those people that can't leave things alone, if you're that kind of person, and you know who you are, I'm not going to call you out. They don't give you any spare feet. So once these feet stop sticking, well, that'll be for you to figure out how you're going to be able to readhese these. And it's an unfortunate design because, and you can see the way these are coming off. You can see the discoloration in the adhesive where it's separating from the rubber foot right through here. You see that discoloration right there? And that's just me taking it off the first time. So as you can imagine, the more often you do this, the more likely those feet are simply going to lose the adhesion property 100% and they just won't stay on. And if you use something like glue or something too strong, you'll just tear the rubber foot in half when you try and take it off next time. The other thing you could do when you put it back together, if you're one of those people that's like, hey, I'm going to be opening this up a lot, just offset the foot away from the screw. It'll still sit just fine on the desk, and then just never move it again. No one's going to see the underside of it. And Mara says we've got an email. Well, we're going to check email in a second here. Let me get this opened first and foremost, and let's see what we've got. What is lurking beneath? Now, one thing I'm noticing is there is a, if you look very closely right here, there's a little notch so that after we remove the screws, you can take something like a spudger tool, like let's say something like a guitar pick or a credit card, you can stick it in that notch to lift this out. And just as a mental note for myself, that notch is on the top right, facing the back ports. That means that the serial number and information on the sticker faces me as I'm looking at this at the front. Sometimes trying to figure out which orientation these covers go on can be a little frustrating when it's a perfect square. So it should be that easy. Let's see. We'll grab our spudging tool. We'll go into that little slot right there. And that's it. It pulls up. Grab it with a finger. And in fact, you know, it's interesting. Something keeps pulling it back down, which means we've got some other kind of a clip. So we might need to just kind of go around and free it up. There it is. And there's nothing attached. Sometimes there can be antennas for your Wi-Fi attached, so you want to be very cautious the first time you open up a mini PC you're not familiar with to know its layout. And then we've got this big heat sink here, and this is going to draw away the heat from the RAM and the two SSDs, as you can see. in the design of the heatsink. So let's go ahead and remove those 4 screws. And those are much longer screws. You'll see I'm using a magnetized screwdriver. It makes life so much easier. Okay. Now there doesn't seem to be anything for me to pull on to get this heatsink off. So again, we can grab our spudger, find a little opening here, and just give us some kind of an idea of some area that we can lift this up and remove it. Remember, there still could be wires attached, so watch for that. One thing I'm noticing right out of the gate is we have no thermal tape on here at all. I guess it's not needed, but it does look like it's supposed to have some thermal tape. And then when we look inside of the unit, in fact, let me get my magnifying glasses out here. When we look inside, we have, let me find something to point with. What can I point with? We'll point with this. We've got our NVMe drive right here labeled Firebat. That's interesting. They have their own branding. I can see underneath this drive is our Wi-Fi card that's also socketed. So if I take this, in fact, this screwdriver, the head of this is too wide. To take that out, we need a much finer screwdriver. Maybe this one? Nope, that one's too narrow. What else do I have? This one's way too big. Yeah, that's never going to work. Well, it's times like this where I pull out my specialty drivers, which I have right here. And we'll find, oh, it's probably going to be this one. Yep, that's the one. There we go. Very tiny screw. Do not drop that. You don't get any spares. But when I remove the NVMe drive, now you'll see our M.2, our CMOS battery. See how it's taped up and has the wires that plug into the board? We're dealing with basically the same thing on Frankie B's computer. So I just ordered about 10 of these from Amazon. They're like $1 each, so it's not an expensive thing. And then we've got socketable RAM right here, and it looks like we only have one module, and it's a little unfortunate that they put it in on the top. It should have gone in on the bottom, in my opinion, because how do you add another one? This one's in the way. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this RAM out for just a second, and I'm going to show you what this unit looks like up close. So we're going to come back over to camera 1, and I'll walk it over there. Okay, so there is NVMe number 1 with your Wi-Fi card sitting below. So that's easily upgradable to either upgrading your Wi-Fi card or upgrading your storage drive. And then you have a secondary M.2 for another storage drive. And then you have 2 memory sockets. Now, none of these plugs across the top are used. That's for other features, I suppose, that just aren't utilized on this build. And of course, the CMOS battery, pretty easy to change. It's right there. And other than that, you know, there's a close-up of the front. Nothing on the sides but ventilation. And then on the back, all of your ports. Now, interestingly, this is when we're looking for these mini PCs in the i5 or Ultra 5 configuration. This is an i5 14450HX from Intel. They are pretty difficult to find. I guess I'll just put this back the way it was. We found 3 of them. We found one from Good Tico, which was bare bones, and we had to put our own RAM and storage into it. We found one from Camrui, the H2, which is the only one that had decent support. And then we've got this Firebat. And for me personally, my clients really, really want Intel, my business clients. You know, my job is to provide my clients what they want. They want Intel, they get Intel. They want AMD, they get AMD. But of course, they want the thing that's the hardest to find. In the sense, for me, if I want to buy a mini PC featuring an AMD chip, they're a dime a dozen, they're everywhere. But finding them Intel based that aren't the budget and they aren't the ultra, finding the mid-range Intel mini PCs, they're just not as many available. I don't know why. So for me, you know, holding on to these are absolute good inventory for me because it's an Intel 14450. It's not going to be so budget that it's slow, and it's not going to be so high-end that it runs warm and loud, because they don't need that in the office where they're opening up spreadsheets and Adobe Acrobat files and Word and email. This is perfect. I don't know that there's much difference internally between the good Tico, the Camry H2, and this Firebat, except that no sooner than we ordered this, Amazon, for whatever reason, it wouldn't be Amazon's fault, but Firebat has removed the listing for this and replaced it with the AMD version of this, which, you know, to me makes me like it that much more. Oh, I'm so glad I got one while I could, whereas AMD, I can buy those all day long. It's not a big deal. So there's an emotional feeling that goes to having acquired something that's difficult or rare. And for whatever reason, and I don't know why, that does seem to be the case. If you look on Amazon and just search for a 14450 and see how many of these pop up, I think you're only going to find 3. I don't know, but that's been my experience anyway. Okay, so let me bring this up real close to the camera so you get the details on the memory and the NVMe that I've just plugged back in. So here is the memory right down there. Whoever Juhor is, Juror, I'm not sure how to say that name. And you just get the one module. That's either a good thing or a bad thing, depending on your attitude. You could say, well, that's a great thing, because if I want to double my RAM, all I got to do is get another 16 gig module. If they put 2 8s in there, you'd have to replace both 8s. This way, you're not replacing anything. It's much more, it's less expensive, and it's better on the environment. And it's just 6 of one, half dozen of the other, depending on if you see that as a good thing or a bad thing. We come over here, we'll turn it around, and you'll see the Firebat branded NVMe drive, which we've not tested yet. It doesn't really tell us if it's Gen 3 or Gen 4, does it? It just says it's 2280, which we can tell by looking. It's 22 millimeters wide, 80 millimeters long. And it's probably got a capacity listed there somewhere, I would guess. But we'll benchmark it, and we'll take a look at Crystal Disk Info and see what mode it's in and what it supports. So that's all there is to it. It's pretty simple, straightforward. And then, of course, to put this back on, we have to orient it in the right direction, which looks like it goes like that. And put the screws back in. And then we can fire it up and start doing our benchmarks. So not terrible to get in. I just wish they didn't have the rubber feet covering up the screws like that. Now, in all honesty, the average customer of mine, whether they're a business or residential, will never open their computer. That's what they hire me to do. You understand? It makes sense that I don't get very many customers that are capable of doing their own work, because why would they hire me for something they could do themselves? So mostly when... how did this go? It went this way, didn't it? When customers go to Best Buy or whatever they go to get their computers, snap that down. Most customers never open them. The people that watch YouTube videos about computers and this kind of video, you're the audience that's more than likely going to open it, not the average person. And as you can tell from the views these videos get, we aren't getting the average people watching these videos. We're getting We're getting an elite group, a niche group of enthusiasts, and I would probably guess that 90% of the enthusiasts will open their computer up at some point for some reason, and 90% of the consumers will never open the computer up from the time they take it home until they retire that computer and replace it. It'll never be opened in its entire life. And unfortunately, they are the majority. So the information I'm offering here is really not helpful to the average buyer, other than unless that average buyer thinks, oh, maybe I could do that myself and I don't need to keep paying people for that. Or they had no intention to open it because it's not that they didn't want to, it's that, or rather it's not that they were afraid to, it's that there was no reason that they could think of to do that. Everything's fine. Why do I need to fix it if it ain't broke? So with that, let's go ahead and plug it in and turn it on. So we'll give it power supply. I need HDMI. I need a keyboard and a mouse. And what else do I need? Ethernet. We'll put that stuff away. Ethernet, plug it into the network, and then finally we need power to the brick, which I am standing on. My foot is on it. There we go. Plug that in, and we'll turn this on, like so. There it goes. Power light's on, and then we'll switch over to input 3 over here. Let's go. See, right there, that should be the one I want. There it goes, booting up. And while it's booting, let me put camera 1 back up here and put me in a corner. And let's see. Screen over here for me because I can't see it too well. That's much better. Okay, so now we'll go to Crystal Disk Info and see what information there is about this NVMe drive. $512 gig, Firebat labeled. Been powered on for 4 hours, and it's been powered on 10 times. It is a Gen 3x4 supported, and its transfer mode in the motherboard is at Gen 3x4. So we expect to see 3600 maximum speed out of this on these sequential reads. So let's run Crystal Disk Mark, and then while that runs, we'll check our email. We'll run all the tests here. So with that running, I'll move it over here. With that running, let me check email while we're waiting here. See what our numbers look like. So at 2400, we're a bit below the maximum speed limit of Gen 3x4. But at these prices for SSDs and RAM, we're lucky to get one that good at this price. We paid $400 for this machine as you see it. We made no changes to it. We didn't have to add any RAM. We didn't add any storage. All I did was a clean install of Windows. That's all we've done. And even that could be debated as if it were necessary. But I wanted to show how to do it, so it was a good excuse anyway. And it looks like we have a contribution from our friend Mark Gaines. And Mark sends us an Amazon gift card in lieu of a super chat. Thank you, Mark. Cheers, my friend. And that message is from Amazon. I have a special folder for my Amazon orders. We did order, we were discussing a Firebat laptop. And we ordered it, we got it this morning. We ordered it yesterday during the live show, and we got it this morning. And so for tomorrow's video, I think we'll be covering this Firebat laptop because it's a pretty decently spec'd out laptop for $377. The problem I've had with this kind of thing before is the same problem we have with this. By the time I get it and the time I make the video, which is only about a week to week and a half, it's no longer available, or they're sold out, or the price has changed. I can't predict that. I have no idea when that's going to happen. So right now, if you want to buy this unit, they've raised the price on it to like $750, which is ridiculous. That's way overpriced. I would not have bought it at that price. But there may be alternate sellers like AliExpress, or it may come back to Amazon, or you just go with the good Tico if you want to put your own RAM and storage, or go with the Camrui H2. But the Camrui is like $550, which is, it's fair. I think you can get it for like $509. This was $400. You understand, that's why I bought it. It was a really good deal with the RAM and storage already in it. And apparently so good of a deal, it's not available anymore. So for that reason, with the laptop, we just got it this morning, we're going to circumvent whatever we had planned for tomorrow, and we're going to do the laptop while it's fresh and new and in stock and at that price. It is a budget laptop. It's not a screamer or anything like that, but under $400, it's a hell of a deal if you ask me. But you can decide for yourself tomorrow if you join us for that live video. Now, the numbers on this are not that impressive. These numbers are slightly better than a Gen 3 by 2. Because Gen 3 by 2 would do half of the 3600, which is 1800. And if you look at the two numbers at top, we have 2479 on the sequential reads and 1745 on the sequential writes. So those sequential writes are close and actually fall a little short of PCIe Gen 3 by 2. And this falls quite a bit short by a good 33% from the top end. But the top end also means more money, and then we're right back to, oh, now $750 makes more sense, right? Or if it was a terabyte or a 2 terabyte drive, right now that's making a huge impact on the price, that little tiny change. So for what we paid for this, this is perfectly acceptable. I can't really complain. So I'm going to save these results, save the image as Crystal Disk Mark, and we'll save that as a JPEG. And we'll put it on the desktop. Perfect. Well, we'll check out Cinebench. So let's start up hardware info and see what the temps look like on this. We'll bring up all the software, by the way, is all portable. I'm not installing anything, and you can just Google it if you want to download it yourself. I cannot provide it to you. That's considered piracy, even though it's free software. I do not have the right to give away other people's free stuff. That's effectively stealing. But if you get it from the person who's giving it away, or in this case, the company, that's perfectly legal for you to go and Google that and grab it and download it yourself. But if you think it's okay for you to distribute what somebody else makes just because they're giving it for free, then I don't think you understand the way the law works. But if you're a big company like Geek Squad, you'll find out when they sue you, because that's exactly what happened when Geek Squad was charging customers to fix their computers and Geek Squad was using free tools. You can't make money off those free tools, not without a license. So they make the tool, but they don't make any money, and you use the tool and you make the money, you're going to court, especially if you're a big company like Geek Squad. So that was a long time ago, but they got busted for using free utilities and charging customers for that. Anyway, let's hit the start button here, and the same rules apply. People sometimes ask me, can I put together a flash drive with all the utilities I use? No, that's illegal. It is completely illegal. I cannot give you something that I don't own, and you shouldn't be asking me, by the way, to steal something for you. That's free. It's the dumbest. What are you in jail for? Oh, I stole some freeware. Wait, if it's freeware, how did you steal it? Well, you know, it's laws. Okay, so there's our 10 cores listed here. We're running in the 40 degrees Celsius range, which is perfect. The fan is very, very quiet. I don't really even hear it. Let's run Cinebench, which is a CPU test. This is not a graphics test. Even though you see graphics on the screen, that's all generated by the CPU alone through some very heavy-duty calculations, and it'll give us a score that we can compare to other CPUs. So let's go ahead and start this test off. We'll do the multi-core test first, and then bring up our temps, and we'll monitor our current temps, which are on this left side. And then we want to keep an eye on these maximum temperatures here. In theory, it should be impossible to overheat this computer. It should thermal throttle at a certain temperature set in the BIOS or by the factory. No matter what you do to it, it should never get hotter than that. So we're just going to verify we don't have any problems with exceeding, let's say, 95 degrees Celsius or extraordinarily loud fan noise as this thing really starts to heat up. So we've already jumped into the 70s. We've almost doubled our temps from where it was at idle. I'm now starting to hear the fan start to ramp up a bit, but it's still pretty subtle. So let's let it run, and while that runs, I'm going to move the camera 1 out of the way. We'll move that over to the other side. And that way you can see everything I'm seeing. And while we're waiting, if you have any questions for me, feel free to ask. Paul says, can you put game 1 on it? I don't know what that means. This isn't a machine intended for gaming. I mean, a baseball bat isn't meant to bash in somebody's windows, but sometimes people use it that way. If you're somebody who's a home user and you're looking to play like this is a toy, this is just a gimmick for you, a novelty, I would just buy the AMD, personally. Because you're going to get much better gameplay out of an AMD. If you use this to earn money, to earn a living, it's a very affordable tool that could, I'll give you an example. I could use this to run my business off of this. It would be a little bit below what I would prefer, but it will do the job. I can remote access in. I can make $500 a day with this, easy. So if it cost me $500, which actually it didn't, it cost me $400 and some sales tax. This will pay for itself in a week, easy, and that's a slow week. I'm not saying one's better than the other, but the reason these videos exist is I'm trying to demonstrate to people how you can be self-reliant. Not how you can sit on the couch all day and play video games. You don't need me to teach you how to do that. That requires zero knowledge. That is the absolute simplest thing you can do with a computer is play a game on it. 6 years old, 4 years old, they know how to do that. I'd like to take you above and beyond that. If you're here for the games, there's just too many games to demonstrate. Not only that, within each game you have versions, and then on top of that you have resolutions. On top of that, you've got DLSS and other setting preferences. You could have multiple monitors. So I could demonstrate a game that runs like butter on this. But the minute you crank everything up on high and put it on 2 monitors at the highest resolution, it's unplayable. So does that mean it's a gaming computer or not? But with business, it's not so obscure. With business, it either agreeably works, and we all universally agree that is perfect. You know, that's doing exactly what it needs to do, and anything above and beyond that is overkill because the person that's using it is only so fast. There are some exceptions, right, where somebody really does need more. But businesses will pay more too. But overall, the bulk of the employees are the slowest part of a computer. So when it comes to games, really, I would be focused on AMD. And if you're curious how well a game might play before you pay for or order a computer, just Google the name of the game and the CPU, because we're dealing with integrated graphics. So we're on a Core i5-14450HX. Just Google any of the 100,000 plus games, whichever one that is of interest to you, which is probably not of interest to anybody else here. That's the other problem. When I deal with businesses, they all run Microsoft Office. You know, they all run Adobe PDF Reader or Editor. They all run Outlook. They all run Windows. So universally, what's good to one business in that genre, if they could be an accountant and another one's a dentist, we're all running that same thing. You can't say that about gamers. There is no one thing alike between them, because somebody might be a Fortnite gamer, somebody might be a Counter-Strike player, somebody might be a gamer for esports, or heck, they could even be text adventures. I don't see much of that anymore, but MMORPG, massively multiplayer online role-playing games, right? This will be fine. Older retro games are making a comeback right now because of the cost of graphics cards. So if you want to go back and play the Super Nintendo stuff and the classic retro stuff, this is fine. You don't need a gaming PC for that. So just so you know, if there was one game that was similar to Office or similar to Windows and that everybody who games plays it, we would be demonstrating that. But there is no such thing. Also, when it comes to resolutions, somebody that wants a finer dot pitch of font in their Microsoft Word or Excel can adjust that to their preference without affecting performance. The same does not hold true with a game. And games are what you pay money to play. Doing work is what pays you money. So if you want to spend your money and you've got the time to engage in playing games all day, I'm jealous. I wish I could do that. I have to pay my bills, and I'm assuming you do too. So the focus on this channel is to teach you how to be self-reliant. I'm not here to encourage you to sit on the couch and play games all day. Now, just because you play games doesn't mean you do it all day. It may just be something you do a couple hours out of the week, and I'm not here to judge. It's your time. But I won't even spend that couple hours out of the week where I could be earning money, because I've never reached a point where I said, okay, I've got enough money right now, I can relax. No, because all I do is say, okay, if I made extra money this month, that means I can take some of my anxiety away and not worry so much next month. And if next month turns out to be a slow month, thank goodness I had that little extra from the month before that I can use as a nest egg to help me make ends meet and hope the next month things come back to normal again. That's just where I'm at in life, right? That's where I've been since, I'd say since about 25 to 28 years old. The gaming kind of went away as my focus became more on running my own business and trying to prove to everybody I could do it. Because if I succumb to the temptation of playing games all day and my business fails, everybody that said I couldn't do it will say I told you so. And I won't give them that satisfaction. So that's, if you're wondering why I'm not anti-game. In fact, I started all of this because I used to go to the arcades, and the arcades were too expensive. I wanted to play the games at home. And that's what led me to here. In each one of these evolutions, I want to share that with you so you see the progress and how I started out as a gamer and how I have very little interest in games these days, because that same time you're wasting, spending time entertaining yourself, could be used to earn money. Now, when you work a full-time job for somebody else and you clock out, different story, right? You already know how much money you're going to make. I don't. So that's the upsides and downsides of being self-employed, is I can make as much as I want. It's up to me. I don't have to worry about somebody else giving me a review and deciding how much money I'm worth. I decide how much money I'm worth. I decide what jobs I want to do. I decide what jobs I don't want to do. I decide if I have enough money and I could want to take a day off. And if I am taking a day off, the last thing I want to do is use a computer. I want to go take a hike in the woods. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to spend my free time messing around with computers when I've spent every waking hour of every single day, pretty much for the last 35 years, working on computers. So that's why I'm so dismissive of gaming. It's just, it's fine. It's an entertainment. It's a fidget spinner. That's fine. But when you want to be self-reliant and you want to have your own business, how hard you work is going to determine whether or not you succeed, basically. At least that's how it is for most of us, unless you're very lucky. You got to go out there and you got to earn it. Because if I'm not working, then I need to be finding work. And I can't find work sitting at home playing games all day. I got to knock on doors, introduce myself, let people know I exist, and they may not need me. But that's okay. You might need me tomorrow, so just hold on to my card, and if something changes, let me know. Give me a call. And you just got to take your downtime to try and drum up work, because otherwise you don't have enough work. At least in my opinion, if you got time to game and you're self-employed, you're not going to be self-employed much longer. Not unless somebody else is paying your bills. So we don't demonstrate any games here. There's no point in it. Whatever game I demonstrate, most of you aren't even going to be playing it. So it really depends on your personal interest, what game you like, what resolution you want to play it at, what frame rates you're expecting. And if I could make money doing that, I would be doing it. But there's no money in it. It's very hard to find that kind of work. It's possible, but unfortunately, the last time I had a customer that used their computer for gaming that called in for a repair was probably prior to the pandemic. It's been that long. And even then, it was very sparse. And it's only getting more sparse. It makes sense that somebody sitting at home playing games all day doesn't have any money to pay somebody to fix their computer, that they would want to do it themselves. That is also part of the game, making the game work. So I have nothing personal against it. I need to pay the bills. That's all. Frankie B with $1.49 super chat. Thank you, Frankie. And maybe during today's broadcast, maybe Amazon will deliver the batteries we need for Frankie's computer, but I'll do that off camera regardless. So our final score here, let's see, we got 11,922 points on our multi-core, and the max temperature was 81, so it stays nice and cool. Let's go ahead and do the single core test. This will warm up again for 10 minutes before the test runs. And as it's warming up, you'll start seeing these numbers. Well, here, you see how it dropped down to 50? Watch how fast it will climb. That's why cooling is so important on a computer. And it's also important that the computer doesn't crash, that we don't lose work, especially when you're getting paid to do a job and you lost all your work. That doesn't make the boss or the customer very happy, that you have to start all over again. And the employee usually isn't happy. So you have 3 unhappy people. And it all that pressure falls on their tech to say, hey, we can't afford this to happen again. Make sure it doesn't happen again. And if it does happen again, you'll probably be out of a job. So that's kind of a game. Except when your character dies, it really dies. All right, let's let that run, and then let's see what other questions we've got here. WD180K says, what is the PL2 limit set to? A fair question, and we can find out when we go in the BIOS. And that is the next thing we'll do after we're done with our Cinebench testing and we get our scores. We'll see if there are performance modes. There could be a quiet, balanced, and performance mode in the BIOS. I don't know if it's there or not. And then we can also look at the PL1 and PL2 settings while we're in there. Remember, these are mobile chips. These are not desktop chips. So they do run a bit differently on your power levels. Andy says, that's a pretty respectable score we got on our first test here for a $400 or less than $400 mini PC. Well, we should see about the same score on any PC that uses the same chip. An Intel i5 14450HX should score within a certain margin of error, regardless if it's Ace Magic or Camrui or Firebat or Minisform. The chip is the chip, right, that they're all building around. So that it should be pretty much all the same. Unless there's a setting wrong somewhere, like in the BIOS. By default, it should all be engineered to more or less perform regardless of who makes it. It should be within the same window of margin of error of score. David Martinez joins us and says hello. Mark Leibowitz said he just quoted out a mesh network for a homeowner whose Eero system seems to have decided that uptime is optional and working on a NAS quote for another client. So Eero just got a temporary approval from the FCC to continue to sell new models of routers. So that means there's 2 now that have already got the pre-approval or the pending, what's the word? Conditional approval, I think is the word. One is Eero and the other, I believe, is Netgear. So, and what that means is all the other routers that have been available, they're still available. But if they want to introduce new models, they have to obey the new rules. And it's a flat across the board for all router manufacturers. They all have to apply now, where before they just had to meet the prior FCC requirements. And those machines that met prior FCC requirements are still available for sale. They can continue to sell those models, no problem. But any new models being introduced have to follow the new rules being introduced. And so far, Netgear and Eero are the only 2 that I'm aware of that have the conditional approval at this point. But it hasn't taken effect yet, I don't think. It might have. But I don't think it's holding back any new routers at this time. So companies have time to file the paperwork and if there's any reason that they're not getting approved, resolve that and still be okay. Ligrinia says he likes the looks of this mini PC. Yeah, I've never heard of Firebat. That's why I ordered it. We ordered it with the support of our members with their monthly contributions to be members. We aren't being promoted by, any of the manufacturers. Gosh, I was trying to picture what this show would look like if we were sponsored. And I don't like it. It's like a nightmare for me where I have to come out and pretend I'm somebody else and pretend the words I'm saying are my own. I basically have to become an actor. So to help you picture this, to give you an example, let's say Firebat was sponsoring us and I was saying, well, welcome into our channel, the Firebat Studios, or welcome into Studio C, Firebat Studios, brought it to us by the manufacturer Firebat, making mini PCs and laptops. And then we're going to talk to you about how wonderful and amazing they are. They're the best thing ever. The best prices, the best quality, the best support. Because if I don't say that, I won't get paid. Why would they pay me to be honest? And it's not that I'm being dishonest, but I'm omitting a bunch of information that might be pertinent to you as a buyer, since you're spending your money, that we don't want to talk about. Just don't mention it. So we're not lying, but some people would say omission is a form of lying. And if that's what has to happen in order to get the bills paid, then the question is, am I willing to trade my integrity in order to have the channel, or am I willing to keep my integrity and completely shut the channel down? And the middle ground I have found is asking the audience to support us here. And that's how we got this machine. Firebat has no idea who we are. We didn't know who they were. We independently purchased it with our own money. That's not coming from any competitors, and you can rest assured that what I'm telling you is 100% my opinion. Doesn't mean I'm right, but it means if you're worried about my impartiality, if you're worried about transparency, I've got nothing to lose by praising this machine, demonizing this machine, or a little of both, right? I like this, but I don't like that. In much the same way, if you went to a doctor and that doctor was recommending medications, and you found out that doctor got a kickback every single time that prescription was filled, You as a patient, how would you feel about that? Would you think, is the only reason the doctor prescribed this because they get a kickback? Because that's what happened with the whole oxycodone thing here in the States. It was being overprescribed and doctors were making millions in kickbacks. And people died. Would it change your opinion of your doctor? Would it be enough for you to just not even go to that doctor, maybe even file a formal complaint with the board? Maybe. Well, I take what I do just as seriously. And I wouldn't want anybody to do it to me, to have a hidden agenda where they don't really believe what they're saying. All they know is if I buy one, they make a little extra money. So it's in their best interest to convince me to buy one for that reason alone. I don't have that motivation here. When we recommend a product, or we don't recommend it, like we're just reviewing a product is what I should say, and we put links to Amazon, we do make a commission if you use those links. But what do you think the commission is on a $400 laptop at Amazon? I think it's about 2.5%. What's 2.5% of $400? It's likely $10. Like, I'm not gonna lie or put my reputation on the line for $10 just so somebody will come back and go, wow, you really praised it. It was really a piece of crap and I'm having all these problems. I'm gonna feel terrible. It's not worth $10. It's not even worth $10 to listen to somebody complain to me about it. So I am sincere. If I like this, and I tell you, this is something that I wouldn't hesitate to offer to my clients. My clients are buying from Carey. They don't care what the computer says, Firebat or Minisform or AceMat. They don't care about any of that. They're buying from Carey. They're giving the money to Carey, and any problems go to Carey. And even if Carey takes care of all those problems, the fact that they had problems, they may lose confidence in Carey just over that. And then how does Carey stay in business? I was confusing. I was about to say third person. How does Carey stop talking in the third person? So if you're playing the long game, if you want to be in business a long time, you need repeat customers. And the best way you're going to get a repeat customer is to have a happy customer. And the best way you can have a happy customer is to set that customer's expectations and then meet those expectations that you yourself set. So that if the customer's upset that you didn't meet the expectations that you set, that's your fault. That's not the customer's fault. You did that to yourself. And maybe you shouldn't be in business. So the whole thing kind of works itself out. So when I'm looking at these 14450s, what I'm curious about, because they fall right in line with the type of machine that unanimously all of my customers would benefit from, all of my business clients. I don't have a single business client that wouldn't like this. But that would also be true for all the other 14450s, the Camrui H2 and the Good Tico. They would like those. They perform exactly the same. And they're all around $400. So they may not like it as much at $500 or $600, or in this case, $750, not so much. So price plays a big role in that. Or let's say we still could get this for $400, but it's not available for sale anywhere. They don't like that because if they need it now. So we got to match all of these requirements. That's why it's called a job. And it's not optional. It's sort of like you do it or you don't, and they'll find somebody else in that case. If you can't do it or you don't want to, you just voluntarily gave up your earnings to some competitor. And if they like this competitor better than you, they may never come back to you ever again. So best to hold on to what you've got and be the best they've ever seen, and don't give them any excuse to go and try and find somebody better, faster, cheaper. I feel pretty confident there is nobody faster, better, and cheaper, and they can look all they want. But I say that because I know my industry here in Phoenix, and I know there aren't many people like me doing this in the way that I do it. The problem is most people don't know that. So I have to do the marketing work to get my name out there to get more work. Or, because I'm just a sole employee, don't get any more work. Just keep what I've got, keep that coming. And that way I'm not overburdened with stress and, running myself ragged. So there's a balance there as well. And if you can't tell, I love this stuff. Even when it frustrates me, I love it. Bajin Guy says 2.5% of 400 equals 10. Thank you, Bajin Guy. I was doing it in my head. I think that's where I got it. Back when they used to teach math in school. Wow, he sounds old. They taught math? Yeah, in cursive. And how to look at a clock and read the time. What? What are you from, like the ancient times? Yeah, we used Roman numbers. WD180K says he can see the PL1 at the bottom of hardware info. Well, we're going to check the BIOS anyway. It should match what hardware info says. And this should be the final run. Once the screen fills up with the rest of the graphics, then we should get a score on our single core test where only one of the cores is being used. Let me go full screen over here because I can't really read the numbers. Where are we at? Oh, we're running nice and cool here. So that usually implies either a fantastic cooling system or they've set the power limits down a little bit. But even when you change the power limits, you're not going to be doubling or tripling the speed of your processor. They're pretty minimal, and only the most intolerant folks really care about that extra 1 or 2%. But I'm not saying they're wrong to care about it. I'm saying it's a very uncommon concern. More people care about the overall performance combined with the noise and the heat, and that if you move it up even as much as 10% or move it down 10%, most ordinary computer users cannot tell any difference. And most enthusiasts only think they can tell a difference because of what benchmarks tell them. And look, benchmarks can be manipulated, they can be inaccurate, and just because a benchmark tells you something should not affect your emotional state. How the computer feels is really the only important thing. And if a computer feels sluggish or laggy, then it doesn't matter what a benchmark says. And I would trust your feelings, use the force, and turn the target calculator or turn the targeting computer off. Use your eyes, use your instinct, learn how to be a human being and stop acting like a computer. That is, the computers are there to work for us. We are not supposed to work for the computer. It's kind of become twisted when people hear their phone ding and they stop everything going on in their life and smash their car into a wall because they got a text. You're effectively the computer's slave, and you are voluntarily doing that to yourself. My opinion is you should be a human, and you should utilize the technology in a way that benefits you, and draw the line. When I'm driving and that phone dings, guess what? My phone's in do not disturb. I won't even know that it dinged. Problem solved. When I get out of the car or if I'm at a stoplight and I want to check my phone, then I'll see if anybody tried calling. So it's a simple change that I control because I'm the human and I don't let a computer tell me if I'm happy. I don't care what the benchmark says. That doesn't change whether or not I'm impressed with the computer or not. So my strongest advice is to hold on to your humanity while you've got it. Because the more people that I notice in society start acting like the computers, they're so used to dealing with the computer, they start acting like them. They don't know how to socialize anymore. They got to use their phone for everything. Everything's got to happen electronically, and everything that makes us human is being lost. So I hope for the sake of our species that we have a generation that resists this, because there's too many addicts attached to the technology that have lost a portion of what it means to be human. And most of that is just feeling, right? And in this case, we talk about benchmarks. What I'm looking for in my benchmarks, and the reason why I do this, is I'm looking to test an extreme scenario that should a customer work this machine in a way that I don't expect, that I'm not going to get a support call. I don't have any customers that would ever do anything like this simulation. This simulation is so unrealistic and unrelated to reality, it's not even funny. But the fact that it passes the simulation that's so extreme and extraordinary, and it does it by keeping the fan cool and it keeps our temps low, gives me the reassurance that if I were to sell this to a customer, I'm not going to get a phone call that, hey, I was doing this extreme task and the thing got really loud and shut down. That's the only reason I run the benchmarks. I also want to see the benchmarks fall within a range. I'm not looking to set any world records. I'm not looking to underclock. I'm not looking to overclock. I am looking for a typical operational experience that feels right to me. You have to feel it. Computers can't feel anything. They're basically on painkillers, and people are becoming that way, especially the younger generation, where they're emotionless, they have no facial expression, they need time to process. Anytime you're in person, many of them just stare at you with nothing to say, and you've asked them a question, they just give you a blank stare. That's the effect of being on the computer too much. So at least with the kids, they have still time to correct it, to recognize it and make adjustments. If they go for half their life doing this, they're probably going to be setting that personality trait permanently. That scares the heck out of me. But that being said, there's our final numbers, right? The 11,922 on the multi-core, 1812 on the single core, and then you know how that performs here compared to other single core older CPUs. There's an i7 11th gen that this runs significantly faster than. How many people are going to be testing single core extreme use? Probably not many, but at least I know if they are, this will run fine. So let's do this. Let's do the screenshot of these results. So I will do function print screen, and then we'll go into Microsoft Paint. Save those results. And then I'm going to save this file and save as. And we'll call this Cinebench R23 results. Results. And we'll put it on the desktop. Save. Okay. Close. Close. There's our results right there. Now we can go into the BIOS and take a look at what's going on in there. So let's do Settings, Windows Update, Advanced, and then here it says Recovery, and Advanced Startup Menu is what we want. That way we don't have to worry about when's the right time to press a key, stuff like this. I have seen this error sometimes with the Intel graphics software. So we might want to look and see if there's an update to that as well. It doesn't affect when you're using the computer. It only seems to happen during a shutdown, and it's harmless. It's like, it shouldn't be doing that, but it's not hurting anything. So when this fires back up, we're going to get a boot menu here, and we're going to want to go into the BIOS. So to do that, we'll go to Troubleshoot, Advanced Options, and UEFI Firmware Settings. Now we'll hit Restart, and it'll start us into the BIOS without us having to press any special key at any special time. Very easy to do. Here's what the BIOS looks like. Let me get rid of camera 1 so you can see the full BIOS screen here, unobstructed. And to start out with, we've got the manufacturer name, the Mini PC name. The first thing it says is regarding our build date, firmware version 3.08 for the embedded controller, or EC. The version of motherboard we have down here says 1.0, Raptor Lake, Intel i5 14450HX, all the way at the bottom. Memory at 16 gigs, running at 2666 on the memory speed, date and time. Let's go to the right, and let's see what we have. We're in performance mode by default. That's interesting that it shipped in performance mode. So that suggests to me that balance mode and quiet mode will just be even quieter and cooler. So I'm going to leave it in performance mode, quite frankly. I'm quite happy with it. I would have never known that was performance mode. I would have thought that was balanced. And when it comes to any sort of power level settings, I don't know where those are. Let's just kind of scroll around here a little bit about the NVMe drive. Let's see, what else do we have? A little bit about the network card, chipset, reconfig, that's all good. SATA config, which we're not really using. RAID is not supported on here. Even though you've got two NVMe's, I don't see a VMD option, so that means there's no RAID option, which I'm fine with, by the way. I don't think it really should have RAID anymore. We used to do that because drive capacities and drive speeds were way too slow 15, 20 years ago. These days, it kind of defeats the purpose unless you're looking for, you know, a network-attached storage device. Secure boot information here shows it's enabled and active. Boot mode, I don't see, what does it say? Boot option 1 should be the NVMe drive. There doesn't seem to be an option to disable these other boot options. That's fine. Should never go past number 1 anyway, unless something's drastically wrong. And other than that, I don't see where any power levels. It looks like power levels are set based on your performance mode. So over here on the right side, it gives us what these predefined settings are. So look to the top right, it says performance mode PL1 is 54 watts and PL2 is 65. And then PL4, which we don't really talk about, is 115. Balance mode basically just lowers the PL1 to 45 watts. And then silent mode lowers PL1 and PL2 and PL4. So PL1 goes from 45 watts to 35, and then PL2 goes from 65 watts down to 45. And PL4 drops from 115 watts on performance and balance, it drops to 65, almost in half. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to scroll down over there. I'm sure it says after the power setting is set, the system must be restarted, but I can't figure out how I can get over to the elevator bar. We've got save and exit is F4, optimize defaults F3, previous values F2, plus and minus, enter to select, up and down, left and right. Select screen, yeah, that's up at the top. It's not helpful. So I can't figure out, because the mouse doesn't work in this text-based BIOS, so I'm not sure how you're supposed to scroll that elevator bar down. That's okay, we more or less know what it says. But it's a pretty simple BIOS, and it looks like just stock, the way the system ships, is set to performance mode. There you go. So we didn't make any changes, so we can just discard changes and reboot. And here's your boot time live, so you can see the real amount of time it takes to get to our desktop. And he says no reason not to have it in performance mode. It does not run any hotter unless pushed. Some people may have very high electric bills, depending on where you live in the world. And it might be more important to you to have a lower electric bill on a machine, especially if you leave it on constantly. And you have a number of machines, like a call center or something. There are reasons why legitimately people would not want that in performance mode. So, you know, the world's a big place, and what doesn't apply to you doesn't mean it doesn't apply to anybody else. Let's see. Oriman says PL2 said 65 watt, the same as hardware info. Well, I would hope so. I wasn't looking at hardware info for the PL1 and PL2. I didn't even look at them, but there you go. It's good to always verify regardless. And I didn't even know what mode we were. Was that balanced? I assume it would have installed or defaulted to balanced mode out of the box. It's one of the first ones I've ever seen that defaults into performance mode. And then performance mode, I mean, they could have gone a little bit hotter, right? At 81 degrees maximum temp, that's very low for performance mode. So there may be a little performance left on the table, but again, only for the most intolerant and demanding users, because you're probably never going to notice it. When you use the computer, your benchmark will say, oh yeah, now you're running up to 95 degrees and you're getting a little bit faster, but more than likely you as a person won't feel that. That's psychological based on the information on the screen that you're reacting to, not on the reality of your interaction with the computer in most cases. Mark Leibowitz said, Carey, I support some computers that most definitely feel pain. You would too if you were continually subjected to their users. Andy says he's got a Firebat A6. That was also shipped in performance mode. We'll have to check the Firebat laptop and see if that ships in performance mode. Maybe that's their thing. All right. Let me go back to camera 1 over here. And we'll go full screen on that now. I think we're okay to do that. And yeah, if you have questions for me about this mini PC or others, this is the time where we hang out together. And I'll do my best to provide answers to your questions or excuses, depending on what the question is. And the power supply, didn't we look at this already? It's like 19 volts, 120 watts, I think. The text on this power supply is so tiny. I got to put glasses on my glasses. That's pretty bad. Yeah, 19 volts, 6.32 amps, 120 watts. It's a pretty small brick. And I would get a silver Sharpie marker, not a black one. I'd get a silver one, and I would write Firebat F2. Because these will get separated. At some point, you're going to move. At some point, somebody's going to redecorate. I don't know. It's going to happen. It may not happen for years. And then this will get separated from that. And good luck figuring it out, because that's how a lot of mini PCs meet their demise, is the end user thinking that if the plug fits, it's the right plug. And then that's an expensive lesson. Unfortunately, the manufacturers of the mini PCs are rarely the manufacturers of the power brick. So the power brick has its manufacturer name on it that has nothing to do with this manufacturer. So if you don't label it, good luck in the future. Sure, you know what it is today. But in 2 years from now, if they get separated, will you remember? Because I don't. And if you buy like Dell or HP or Lenovo, they are branded on their power bricks. You're also going to pay more for them. If you think computers are expensive now, why don't you price out what one of these costs from Dell or HP or Lenovo on their tiny PC? They have tiny, they have mini, and they have micro, but they're all basically the same. It's a trademarked name. They all want to go their own, use their own words. Dell doesn't want to call theirs what HP is calling HP's mini computers. Lenovo doesn't want to call, Lenovo I think calls theirs tiny, because mini and micro were taken. But they're all basically the same size. And it's just a trademark name for that family of small computer. And they'll build mini PCs, Dell and HP and Lenovo do, as does Asus. And if you really want to see high prices, go shop them. Now granted, you get great support. You get a website with all kinds of information where you can help yourself. And you're with a trustworthy company that, you know, likely cares if you're leaving a negative review on the Better Business Bureau, whereas these companies, they don't care, right? They don't even know what the BBB is. What do we care? So if you want to save money and you're okay with that difference between the big name brand and the smaller name brand, I just don't want you to be disappointed with your purchasing decision, and that there is a difference. The reason the prices are different, so different, is because the company behind it, what kind of support or lack thereof, how long of a warranty or no warranty, whether or not the system is shipping without RAM or solid state drives. I don't believe a Dell or HP or Lenovo would ever sell you a bare bones computer. I don't think they do that. I don't think they ever have, and I don't think they ever will. They don't want that support nightmare because their scale is so big. Encouraging a customer to open a computer is the last thing they want to do. It just costs them money when customers open their own computers. So they do what they can to keep customers out, lock the BIOS features down so that the BIOS is very basic and simple, because end users will all too commonly wonder, what does this button do? And then it becomes Dell or HP or Lenovo's problem to save that customer from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. You know, best to not give them the gun. They can't be trusted. So if you want to have consistent profits, you need to reduce your support costs. And in order to reduce your support costs, you take away the things from customers that often result in support calls that were completely avoidable for features that didn't need to be there. If you disagree with that, then don't buy the big brands. You know, the smaller brands are more likely going to give you that kind of modularity, that granularity of specifics. And then when you complain that when you call them or email them, you don't get any answers, they can't afford it. They're simply selling you the computer at a very cheap price. And part of what you're not paying for, in most cases, is that additional support. Somebody's got to get paid to answer your call. Somebody has to get paid to answer your email. You understand you're not paying for that. The alternative would be to pay for the support, make it a la carte. And HP did that for a while, where they'd say, thank you for calling HP support. What are you calling about? Printer, computer, what is it? Scanner. Calling about a computer. Please enter your serial number. And you're not even allowed to talk to anybody. You put your serial number in, and it goes, your computer's out of warranty. Support is $35 per call. Would you like to pay with a credit card? In fact, I don't know of any other way you could pay. If so, press this button and it'll select your credit card. Then it'll charge the card, get the approval, and then it'll put you in queue on hold to the next support representative. That doesn't mean they're going to solve your problem and you're not getting your money back. That's how bad it is. So then people go, well, this is pointless. I might as well do it myself. Good. That's exactly what they want you to do. They don't want to pay money to dig you out of the hole you dug yourself in. And you dug it, you get out of it. And some people are like, this company's terrible, they won't help me. Every company is that way now. They will help you while you're under warranty. Once you're out of warranty, there's two choices. They either don't do support at all, and they just treat everyone equally where you're on your own after the sale. That reduces their expense. That means they can sell for less, and consumers often look for price. They don't care about anything else until something happens. And if that something happens, that's when the consumer gets angry. But that's exactly what the consumer bought. So the only one the consumer should be mad at is the person they see in the mirror. They should have known that the difference in price between the HP and the Firebat has to do with the level of support you get. And if you thought you didn't need it, then don't be upset when you don't get it, because you bought a computer without it. Now, I don't know what Firebat's support is like, but I can tell you it's a little on the edge with regards to what we've experienced for driver availability and accuracy. And this is my first Firebat product, so I've never had a return. I don't know what they're like to contact for support. And in theory, I shouldn't ever need to know if everything works right. And I don't personally screw this machine up where I'm asking them to help fix a problem I caused that has nothing to do with them. That is really the biggest issue with selling computers, is people expect to get tutored for free. People expect to break it and have you fix it for free. And to some extent, that continually happens under warranty, but that's why warranty periods keep shrinking down to at least the limit of the law here in the United States, so the company can stay in business, or they have to charge more. And if they have to charge more, they still may go out of business if customers aren't paying for that extra, but they still demand it for free. I was at a restaurant the other day, and they have a sign on the wall, and it simply says, extra costs extra. That's all it says. So when somebody says, can I get some extra sauce? Yes, it's 50 cents for an extra sauce. Can I get extra ketchup? Well, maybe not ketchup. But usually, if it's something in addition you want, they are more than happy to provide that to you, so long as you're willing to give extra in exchange. If you don't want to pay extra, but you expect extra, just throw it on top like a tip. Companies, restaurants even, they're saying no, not anymore. No more free, oh, can I get an extra tartar sauce? 50 cents. Extra cost extra. It's common sense when you think about it. And the problem is, it's gotten to a point, it's gotten so bad, where the customers are abusing the manufacturer or the restaurants by, they don't just want one extra, they want 10 extra. And they don't quit. And it's like, okay, we can't sustain this financially. There's no way we can just give out endless tartar sauce. Not at these prices. We have to raise our prices. And if we raise our prices, other customers that don't do that are paying for the customers that do. That's not fair. So let's charge the customers that do it and leave our prices low for everybody else. It seems logical and fair. Unless you know of another way I'm not considering, how else are you going to stay in business? When society starts, wringing out the washcloth for every drop, at some point, someone's got to pay for a new washcloth. It'll wear out real soon. Bajan guy said it took about 12 seconds to the desktop. What's interesting is the original Intel NUC that the very first mini PC we ever looked at, very much the same shape and size as this one today, was in 2013. And it boots to the desktop. And I think that's an i3 6th or 7th gen. Might be older than that. I'd have to go back and look what the specs were on the original Intel NUC. That machine still works today, by the way, and it boots into the desktop in like 13 seconds. So there's not a whole lot of performance gain buying a modern computer versus buying one a couple of years old. The CPUs haven't really done much. They're adding more cores. They're adding more cache, and depending on how you use your computer, that might make a difference. But for the average user, they don't need the latest and greatest. Heck, this 14450, you know when this chip came out, the Intel 14450? You think that's new? I mean, it is new, but it's not recently introduced to the market. That chip was introduced to the market. 14450 HX release date is January 9th of 2024. That's over 2 years ago. It's almost 2.5 years ago. And that's part of the reason it's priced at the price point it was. If we did an Ultra 5, like a current edition Ultra 5, that'd probably be about $200 more. But the performance difference between them, probably not really noticeable to the average user. So why spend the $200? Because the average user will absolutely notice the difference of $200 for sure. Let me look on Amazon just out of curiosity how much we can get an Ultra 5 mini PC for today. Jump over to Amazon and I'll just type in Ultra 5 mini PC. I'm going to guess about $200. So right around $600. So the GMK Tech K15 is an Ultra 5 125U. Now with 32 gigs of RAM, that's DDR5, which is expensive, and a 512 gig SSD, we're at $700 on Amazon right now. $699.99 for the GMK Tech K15. So we paid $400 for this with the chip that's 2 years older. And we got 16 gigs of RAM instead of 32. And that saved us $300. That's almost the price of this unit at $400. That's 75% of its cost. If I look for other Ultra 5s, what else do we have? Of course, the MSO2 from Minis Forum we just looked at, that's at $579. So $179 more, but that's also giving us 14 cores. It's also giving us PCIe Gen 5. It's also giving us 4 sockets of DDR5 SODIMM. It's also giving us USB 4 version 2 and 10 gig plus 2.5 gig LAN and Wi-Fi 7, but will not include the RAM and storage or operating system at that price. So that's not a complete system at $579, whereas the GMK Tech K15 is complete at $699. Although I don't think you get USB 4 version 2. You do get Oculink on it. And I don't think it's Gen 5. I think it's only Gen 4. But it does have 3 M.2 slots. So there is that. Scrolling for any other Ultra 5s here, just to get a price range. So the Camrui Hyper H2 is listed at $510. And that's with 32 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte. So if you're saying, well, that's $100 more than the Firebat, it has twice the RAM and twice the storage. So suddenly that $100 seems like a bargain now, doesn't it? 32 gigs of RAM. So we double the RAM and 1 terabyte of Gen 4. This is 512 gig of Gen 3 for an extra $109. It seems like a pretty fair deal. Otherwise, it looks identical in the ports. Minis Forum M1 Pro is an Ultra 5. 32 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte of storage is $749. So if you want the latest and greatest, it's about, well, I said it was about $200. It's actually looking to be about $300. Almost doubles the price. Asus makes a Nook 15, which is an Ultra 5 225. That's the latest and greatest, which also has Thunderbolt 4, Wi-Fi 7. That's available bare bones for $499. So you got to put your own RAM and your own storage in that. So you're going to be, again, when you put your own RAM and storage, you're easily over $700. And that's a sale price. Okay, jump back over here. John Williams says it's time for dinner. Well, enjoy your dinner, John. Thanks for hanging out with us, my friend. Brian Weber says hello. Hi there, hello. Andy says, yeah, it looks like a great deal. Let me go back over to Amazon. Let's take a look at something here together. Screen up. This is what I was looking at earlier. Let's just look for a 14450 HX. Let's see how many choices we have. So there's the Hyper H2, which we've reviewed. 509, and that's the one I mentioned that has 32 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte of storage. You have your 2 USB Type A's and a USB Type C in the front, along with a headphone jack and a power button. And we have the exact same front on this Firebat. I'm telling you, it's the same motherboard. Even if it's a different BIOS, 1 Ethernet jack, 4 USB, it's exactly the same ports. Everything's exactly the same. And I expect any mini PC with a 14450HX will have the exact same ports in the exact same place. I could be wrong, but I imagine that's the case. So here's one that's a little bit more money. This one is $90 more. Why is it $90 more? 16 gigs of RAM, 512 storage. This is 32 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte for $90 less. So that must be based on the seller, because this says limited time deal, normally $819.99. I don't know how, that might be the MSRP or the manufacturer's suggested retail price, but I don't think anybody's selling it at that price. This one has a lower MSRP of $769 for obvious reasons, but yet has a higher price. And it's the exact same computer. I think the only difference is the seller. What else? There's the good Tico. That's the one we bought, and we bought it bare bones, right? Because it's 0 gigs, disk size, no RAM. We put our own RAM and storage for only $300. It's the same computer. Look, it has the USB Type-C, the 2 Type-A's, the headphone jack, go around the back, the 4 USB. Everything's exactly the same. This particular chip appears to only come equipped with 1 chipset, which means everyone who sells this in a mini PC format are all going to be the same. So if one person doesn't make drivers, guess what? It uses the same drivers everybody else that makes the 14450HX. You could just go use their drivers. Who knew that we'd be living in a world like this 30 years ago? So GMK Tech, no, that is not an i5-14. Oh, here's a laptop version of the same chip. It's a renewed laptop at $829 from HP. And even though I put the 14450 in my search up here, you'll see Amazon still shows me unrelated content here. Oh, actually, no, it's not unrelated. That is a 14450. This one up here is unrelated. Why is it showing? Oh, because it's sponsored. So sponsored has nothing to do with your search. It's just vaguely related to you. Like, oh, it's a mini PC. So yeah, these sponsored items usually have nothing to do with what you're searching for. Amazon used to just put them at the top. Then they started putting them at the bottom and the top, and now they're sticking them in the top, the bottom, and the middle. Look how many of these say sponsored. The first one, second one, then we go down in the middle. We've got a weird one in the middle. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so 6 sponsored unrelated to our search versus how many results did we get on the first page? Out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 results. 6 of the 21 are not results. 6 are advertisements. That leaves us with 15 actual results. That is sneaky. So don't be manipulated. Understand the way the system works and use it to your advantage. See this sponsored link? This is not an Intel 14450. If anything, this is a year older and costs more. I guess it doesn't, not when you include the 16 gigs of RAM and the 1 terabyte of storage. And it's got USB 4, and it supports 4 display outputs. And it's got a micro SD card reader. That might be worth it for some people. Okay, so the point is, just because it's newer doesn't mean it's better. Older could be better because of the price difference and availability that, you know, the general public always wants what's new. After it's not new anymore, I'm not a fan of, like, take Micro Center opened up here in Phoenix, and the news was covering this, you know, Micro Center's opening their first store in Phoenix, and people were lined up outside the day before it opened to get a good place in line. Those days are ending. Nowadays, you just go online. So I was a bit amused, you know, when Windows 95 came out and people would line up around like Egghead Software. Windows 95, I want to be one of the first people to buy it. I'm going to go camp out in line. Who would do that today for an operating system? Nobody. No one. So I suspect we're going to see more and more of the in-person shopping decreasing. But the point I'm trying to make is that I wanted nothing to do with Micro Center during the first 2 weeks. And I went into Micro Center for the first time, it's about 6 months after it opened. There's barely anybody in the place. There's no line, there's no crowd, there's no difficulty to park. And that's the way it'll probably remain. So whenever they introduce something new, there's this, it's like our culture is so starved and is so fickle that we get our dopamine hit, we get our buzz because it's new, and then we're not interested in it anymore. There's a big gas station opening up that Mara's really excited about. Yeah, she's excited about a gas station. And if you don't live in the South or the Southwest, you probably never heard of it. But they're expanding outwards, and they're called Buc-ee's. And Buc-ee's is known for having over 100 fuel pumps, making their own barbecue brisket, having a beef jerky bar, having deli sandwiches fresh in-house made. They have their own custom-made snacks that are prepackaged snacks that you can't get anywhere else. They're their own company brand. There are people, this is how twisted the world is. Let's say you're on a road trip. You're trying to get, let's say we're going to California. We're driving from Phoenix to California. And on the way, we have to stop and get gas at some point. And it's, yeah, use a restroom, maybe grab a bite to eat somewhere, maybe at the restaurant, or maybe at the gas station. Because gas stations, you know, the further you move away from the big city, the more likely there's a Wendy's or an Arby's or a Subway or something built into the gas station, its own independent restaurant inside of the gas station. Or sometimes the gas station has their own brand, right? Depending on where you are in the country. So you just one stop, you're getting gas, you get food, use the restroom, leave, get back on the road. What Buc-ee's does is they've got a Walmart-sized gas station, just this massive block. It's a city block big. And you can get lost in there. They have everything you could possibly imagine. You want to buy some clothes, some snacks, you want a fresh, hot barbecue brisket made fresh, you know, just hours earlier or minutes earlier. That's what they do all day, every day. And there's more and more than I can possibly describe. And we don't have a Buc-ee's in Arizona. They're a big Texas chain, but they're branching outward. And that's supposed to open next month. But I'm not going the first 2 weeks. You got to be out of your mind. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's a half an hour just for us to get there, probably 45 minutes, just to be in a slew of crowd of people. But after those first 2 weeks, it'd just be like any other gas station. And then you go out, it won't be any big deal. Sure, it'll have busier times than others, but it's not the hype around new. And the hype around new is very good for companies because they make their most amount of money with the new CPUs. But it's not good for the consumer. You will pay more and wait longer and deal with limited supply than if you just wait. And it doesn't take long in the computer field for things to age out. So here we're looking at a 14450 that's 2.5 years old. And as you can see, just looking on Amazon, there's not many to pick from because they've already moved on. This one just never gained traction. And if you know what it is and you know what to look for, this is the time to buy it. If it gets much older, another 2 years, it's probably too close to end of life at that point. It'd have to be really cheap. So depending on where your values fall with regards to how much money you're willing to spend and what you expect to get in return, there's always a better value waiting at least a year. You also don't deal with any of the issues that occur, like with the Intel 12th and 13th or 13th and 14th gen chips that were having the BIOS issues with the overheating. All of that was resolved after about 6 months. So if you would have just waited, you would have had a cheaper price and you would have avoided all those problems that the early adopters paid extra to endure. Yeah. And Mara says, we've got an email. All right, 2 emails. Well, that sounds like it's time for me to get out my glasses. We're just about done with today's video, so if you do have any questions for me, this will be the time. Let's see what we have for email. Oh, Buster with a very generous PayPal contribution. Hello, Carey, Mara, and Sable. I just want to say thank you. As you know, I've been under the weather the last 3 weeks. And I've been having trouble sleeping. Apart from that, I'm okay. Well, maybe my videos will help put you to sleep. This is a very generous contribution, and it is very, very generous, man. Thank you so much, Buster. Sorry to hear you're not feeling well, or that you're not sleeping well. That's one thing I can't stand, is not being able to sleep. It's a real problem. My brain doesn't like to shut off at night, and I usually have to take melatonin or valerian or kava. I need something to help. My body is physically tired, but I cannot shut my brain off. So I'm usually up, because of that, I'm usually up till about 3 o'clock in the morning most nights before I even can think about, and my body is just done. It's just my brain. So I feel you, and that sucks. But nothing feels better than when you do get that good night's sleep. And you sleep the whole night, you don't even wake up in the middle of the night, because that's bad too, waking up multiple times throughout the night. But thank you, Buster. Charlie Purdy also sends us an Amazon gift card. Thank you, Charlie. And again, a generous contribution from our friend Charlie. Luke Greenia says he really wants, if the Firebat laptop that we're planning on reviewing tomorrow is something that I think is okay, then he'd like to make arrangements to buy it from us. We would love that. Unless, of course, we wouldn't want to sell it to you because it doesn't meet our I wouldn't sell anything to you that I wouldn't sell to a customer. And it's just the way my business is. I'm always consistent. I always follow the same rules, regardless if somebody's buying a $15,000 computer or a $500 computer. They all get done the same. How much support I'm going to include is based on, obviously how much profit. Somebody buys a $15,000 computer, they can call me all they want. They can call me for the next 10 years. I won't complain about it. But when I'm losing money on a sale, if I think it's going to lead to support calls, I won't even sell it, because then I'm just losing money and losing confidence in myself from my customer's perspective. Based on what we're seeing on the Firebat here, I expect the Firebat laptop to, well, if I didn't expect it to be good, I wouldn't have ordered it. And we were able to order this because of the contributions from Charlie Purdy and Frankie B, from Buster, from Mark Gaines, Luke Greenia. So many of you have contributed in and above and beyond. YouTube's taken 30% of your membership money, so I don't get, if it's $10 a month, I get $7. And then there's taxes on that. So what does that leave me? It leaves me about half. You're still paying 10, but I'm not seeing 10. When Amazon gift cards are contributed, or PayPal, we're seeing all of it, and we get it instantly, and we're probably spending it in Amazon anyway, and we avoid all of the other hands dipping into the bucket. So that's why we're able to do this, and we can't thank you guys enough for supporting us and all of our members, because all of that adds up. And it results in being able to buy units and not rely on corporations to either offer us a review unit. A lot of times when they offer review units, there is a almost universal, we want to see your video before you air it to your audience. And I'm so glad Mara deals with that now, because I was getting really angry. We watch your channel and we love your content. Well, then we shoot live. And there's no way for us to show this to you before we air it. So clearly, they never watched our channel, and it's all a lie. But if they make a product we're interested in, we'll just tell them, look, we don't do that. If you want to send us the product at no cost, we'll make a dedicated video for you. And we'll give it an honest review. And if you don't want that, that's it. It's not negotiable. unless you want to pay for a commercial. If you want us to make a commercial, it's a lot of money, and we will do it. I won't say no, because after all, that'll pay for more content, including paying for content that we could buy that's their competitors in future videos. For some reason, they don't want to do that. It is incredible to me that these folks will reach out with something like a pair of socks. And I'm not exaggerating. We will send you a pair of socks for free, and all you have to do is make a video. And you can keep the socks. Like, do you understand the value proposition between the cost of making a dedicated video on your product and your cost of sending me the product? Do you think I'm stupid? Do you think I have such low self-esteem and self-worth that I think that's a good deal? It's not a good deal. It's a good deal for them. Well, we see that when someone will say, oh, we've got a mini PC. It's, you know, they're bottom of the line. We'll send it to you for free, and you can review it however you want. We just want to see the video before you show it to the public. Like, no. You should be lucky I'm even paying attention to you at all. By the way, if I'm going to put the spotlight on your product, do you want to send me your cheapest, lowest budget product? Is that how you want to spend your spotlight time? You ought to consider sending me your highest end product, the most expensive thing that you're the most proud of, and take advantage of the spotlight. But it's your money. But for what traditional commercials cost to manufacture for TV and radio, you could send 100 of these units out before you would reach the cost of a traditional commercial on radio or TV. And then when you air a commercial on radio or TV, you don't know who's hearing it. But if you're doing a dedicated video on a YouTube channel that has followers that are interested in that subject matter, that is your target audience. That is a highly targeted audience for that ad, or that exposure, as the case would be with me. And I always tell companies, I don't tell people whether or not they should buy your product. I introduce your product. I'm just forming an introduction, and I'm giving my personal thoughts. But at the end of the day, I encourage the users to think for themselves. My personal thoughts don't matter, because if they decide to make that purchase, that's between them and who they purchase. I'm not selling it. So even if I recommend this, that doesn't mean it's right for you, and it doesn't mean that the reason I recommend it would have any value to you. And if the reason you don't like it has no effect on me, I don't care. And if the reason you do like it is completely different reasons, and that's why you want to go buy one, I don't care either. It's just an introduction. If that introduction leads to a friendship, great. And if it doesn't, that's fine too. But I'm not trying to bond people together and convince people to be friends and to like each other. I'm just introducing you, and just let it go. What it'll be is what it'll be. And nobody's wrong. Nobody's evil. And this concept that we have to explain time and time again is a very simple one. They want an advertisement, but they want it as a review. Universally, that's basically what they're saying. And we're saying, we put our foot down. We go, no, we're not doing it unless you pay us. If you want a review, these are the terms. We do it live. You'll send the product for free. We're going to be honest. And that's that. We're not selling units. The unit should sell itself. If you guys don't have a good quality unit at a good price, that's not my fault. I can't make it better than what it is, but I can tell everybody what it is. I can introduce them to it. That's half your battle, is just people knowing you exist. I never heard of Firebat before. Many of you, I'm sure, haven't either, but because I went out and bought this, they now have exposure. It cost them nothing. On the other hand, if they want a dedicated video and they want to dictate to me what I say, they can pay me thousands of dollars for that. Thousands of dollars. And if they're not willing to pay those thousands, I'm not willing to do it. So they have a choice. They can either let me do a real review that'll cost them the price of what their cost is on this, which is obviously if they're selling it at $400 and they're paying an Amazon commission and they're paying for shipping, their profit on that's got to be, you know, I mean, it's not, I'm sure it's not much, but nonetheless, it's not at cost. They're not losing money on it. So the send to me one is costing them just the cost. In exchange, they're getting all of this exposure. They're getting this introduction. It stays on YouTube indefinitely, even if the unit's not made anymore in the years ahead. They still, it's brand awareness. Who's Firebat? Are they still in business 5 years from now? And what are the current models? All based on a 5-year-old video from a product they don't make. It's still good for them indefinitely. It just keeps promoting them forever. Commercial airs once. If you weren't paying attention, you didn't hear it. Maybe it'll play again, and every time it plays, it costs money. Every time a YouTube video plays, it doesn't cost them anything. And if they can't understand the basics of marketing, we don't want to work with them. So by us having members supporting us, we go out and we'll buy a unit. We don't need them to work with us. We'll review it anyway, whether they like it or not. Now, we've had no discussions with Firebat one way or the other. We didn't even reach out to them. We just bought the unit. We didn't even try. And then based on this, we bought that laptop that we'll review tomorrow because it seems like a really good value. I hope it is, because if I thought it wasn't, I would have never ordered it. Worst case scenario is we send it back to Amazon. Within 30 days, we get a full refund, so it doesn't cost us anything. Best case scenario, we say, hey, maybe we want to see more from this company, but we can't afford to keep buying stuff and advertising them for free. So just based on principle alone, let's just reach out and see if they want to work with us, because we do like their product. We'd like to see more. So at least there, we're starting out at a good place, that we're likely going to have a good relationship. When it's a brand new company we've never heard of before, and they send us a product and the product is terrible, or we have a bad experience with it for whatever reason, that's not a good introduction for us to the company, right? Because they didn't get what they wanted. But we're not manipulating their product. So that last TerraMaster unit we reviewed is the most expensive unit TerraMaster ever sent us, and it's the worst unit from TerraMaster we ever experienced. Guess who we don't hear from anymore? And I'm okay with it. If they don't want to address these problems and come back to us and say, all of those things that you experienced on your live video showed us a lot about what we need to do to improve, and we'd appreciate it if you take another look now that we've made those improvements, that's the answer we want. But when they go quiet and they ghost us, that tells us a lot about the company, and it certainly has an effect on my personal opinion of the company. So long as they hear what they want to hear, they're happy. And the minute you point something out that's it's not opinion. It's just like, look at what just happened in the live video. How is that possible? Explain it. And they go quiet, then we're the bad guy, according to them. Or that's what I would assume, because they're leaving me no choice but to assume, and I'm going to assume the worst. If you don't want me to assume the worst, you need to speak up and explain it to me. One or the other. And since they've not spoken up, I have to assume there's a reason for that, and it's not a good one. With regards to the ethics and morals that I follow in my business, they're in another country, which may explain why their ethics and morals are different than mine. Maybe if I lived in their country, I'd feel the same way, but I don't live there. And if you want to do business in my country, then you need to respect the culture of my country. In India, for example, they don't really have customer service. If you go to the bank and you don't do things the certain way, the bank won't help you. And if you want to talk to a manager, they'll just tell you to leave. But if that bank wants to do business in America, they have to train their employees on how to give American customer service, because they don't know that. They've never been taught that in their life, because that's not how it works in India. But if you want to continue to do business in America, you've got to adopt our culture. We don't have to adopt yours. You're the one coming over here selling here. We're not going to you. You're coming to us. So I don't find any excuse for this. At the same time, we're not shutting out TerraMaster. We're not disinviting them. We're not doing to them what they are doing to us. We're not ghosting them. And if they ever want to reach out again and start over, our door is always open. But at the same time, we're not going to go chasing after them. Why would we? Just so we can see more bad product? Because I have no reason to believe that anything will change unless that change starts with them coming back to us. That will tell me they care and that they're willing to make the changes, or at least acknowledge them and explain them, at the very least, why they have to be that way. One of those two. But to just go quiet and disappear. Imagine you hired somebody to do a job and they show up and they start the job. They say, I'll be back tomorrow. And they never come back again. And they don't answer your phone calls. Something happened to them? Did they die? Are they in the hospital? Was there a medical emergency? Or did they just rip you off? Which way, without any clarification, is your brain going to go? They probably ripped you off. And unless they speak up and explain why they were absent, what choice do you have but to just imagine the worst? Whose fault is that? Not your fault. They're the one who left that opportunity and forced that opportunity for you to have to assume the worst. So you should. But if the laptop tomorrow turns out to be, in my opinion, a good value and solid build, then I will definitely have Mara reach out to them and let them know, hey, we made these videos on your products, and if you have any products you'd like us to review, we'd love to see them. Could be a future friendship. Or we may get no response at all. That's how the world works today. But that doesn't mean we don't review any more Firebat. It just means we're restricted to what our budget is, and what if we want to spend that on competitors or other things that are new to us or appear to have a better value, versus if they send us a unit, we're obligated to review it regardless. So we always hope for the best on that. Mark Leibowitz said, Carey, I might be willing to stand in line to get barbecue brisket and gasoline at the same time. That's novel, but I'd have to be really hungry. I don't know. Because if you look on YouTube for people visiting Buc-ee's, just walking in and smelling it, from my understanding, will make you hungry. You'll say, I'm just going to go in and look, I'm not hungry, and then you'll smell it and you'll be like, oh, I got to have that. I don't know that you'd have to be hungry. You will become hungry. But, look at some of the video reviews of Buc-ee's on YouTube. Look how massive this place is. And they come out with bags and bags of food, and they'll go out in the parking lot and they'll try all these different things. A couple bites of this, there's bratwurst, and there's burritos, there's breakfast sandwiches, there's brisket, there's all this stuff. So I think that's one of those things that you can easily say because you've never been there. But from what I've seen, you're gonna be buying some stuff. Dustin says, great stream as always, Carey and Mara. Thank you, Dustin. Andy says, I refuse to hurry for anything anymore. Amen, brother. Just let somebody go ahead of me. Just go. You're in a big hurry, go ahead. Just get out of my way. Leave me alone. I don't want to be last, and I don't want to be first. I just want to be next. That's all. Take the pressure off. Come on. Nothing worse than being at a red light. The light turns green, and the person ahead of you is not moving. Let's go. Versus if you're that person and the pressure's on you. Pay attention. Everybody's behind you expecting you to pay attention. That's the responsibility you took when you were the first one at the light. So if you're not the first one at the light, you can't really screw up. Well, you still can, but usually, even if you're not paying attention out of your peripheral vision, you'll see the cars around you moving, and oh, right? But if you're first in line and nobody's moving, that's the pressure you get as first. Andy says, another fine mini review. Thank you, Andy. Richard DeFries joins us and says hello, along with Gary Tatum. And Gary says, yeah, it would cost thousands for a company to get exposure to a highly targeted audience like that. That's what I'm saying. But you'd think they were offering us thousands, and for what they're asking, usually they're asking for the world in exchange for a shiny nickel. That's what it feels like to me. And I understand, why wouldn't they, if somebody agrees to those terms? Why? If I said, hey, I'm going to give you $20 and take your house, okay? And you said, okay, sounds like a great deal for me. I'm not breaking the law by asking. It's just, I don't know. It's like being treated like an idiot. Do you think I'm that stupid? Do you think that I have such low self-esteem and self-worth that I would accept your deal? They hope so. They hope so. NY Renal MD said, Buc-ee's is an example. People will always want to go for the experience. Amazon gives speed and value, but I often miss a place like Fry's or a computer fair for seeing and touching and ambiance. Yes, absolutely. And I guess I didn't finish my thought on that. So let's say we're driving from Phoenix to California. We have to stop for gas, right? What's happening is Buc-ee's, it's such an enjoyable place to stop that people are now taking a road trip to Buc-ee's because they're usually on the outskirts of town. They're not in the, they're going to be sort of in the middle of nowhere where the truck stops are. When we travel, there's big truck stops for the truckers. Flying J, TNA, Loves, Pilot. And they're massive, lots of gas pumps. They have showers for the truckers. They have a little department store for things truckers might need, but they're always outside of the city. Well, Buc-ee's is the same way. You get outside of the city, where they're building Buc-ee's isn't too far out of the city, but it's mostly surrounded by desert and a freeway, and that's it. And that's why there's 100 fuel pumps. So you shouldn't have any problem finding a fuel pump available. There's some debate about Buc-ee's telling people if you're not getting gas, move your damn car because you're blocking a pump. You could spend a half an hour in Buc-ee's and think it was 5 minutes. In the meantime, your car is blocking a pump. And even though there's 100 pumps, it's quite possible 75 of them are just sitting as a parking lot because people are inside shopping. So Buc-ee's is starting to put their foot down and say, hey, move your damn car, park it, then come in and shop. If you're not fueling, get out of the way. Have some respect and consideration for the people in society that you share this planet with. It's not always about you. And have a little common courtesy. How would you like it if somebody did that to you? So lead by example. And I love that Buc-ee's is acknowledging this and really putting up signs and everything. They're even going so far as to say, don't even come into the store. If you're at the pump, pay at the pump. Then go park your car and come in. We will not take your payment inside the store anymore unless you're paying cash, because we don't want you in here if you're at the pump. This is how big of a problem it is. Move your damn car. There's other people besides you waiting to use that gas pump. Move it. You're done using it. Let somebody else use it. Park your car in the parking lot, then come on in and shop as long as you want. The fact that Buc-ee's has to do this and treat adults like they're little children is where we're at in society now. That everybody is so discourteous and entitled as to not think of anybody but themselves, that the company themselves has to raise these children because their parents didn't do a good job. It's sad that adults have to be talked to this way, that they don't know better, that it's that necessary. You have no idea how disappointing this is to me. They have to talk to adults as though they're children because their parents didn't raise them right. So society has to do it. It falls on us. And the companies that, it's affecting how much money they're making. If you're blocking a pump, that pump isn't selling any gas. You're costing the company money, and you're inconveniencing other people that want to just get gas and go. They don't want to shop at the Buc-ee's. They just want gas. Would you just move? Same with like a Tesla, charging station for EV. Somebody parks their car and it's charged, but they're still using the spot, and somebody else is waiting for that spot so they can charge their car. Have some freaking consideration. That's how society is supposed to work, or expect it to be done to you in return. Because if that's what you're going to do, then I promise you other people are going to do it back to you. So it just disappoints me when the company has to get involved. The fact that Buc-ee's has to teach adults how to behave like adults. Let's just say in the 1950s, when they were thinking about the year 2000 and flying cars, at no point that they think society was going to get so selfish and disconnected from reality that corporations were going to become their parents. I never saw anybody predict that. And if they did, no one would have believed it. They'd have said, well, that's too far-fetched. I like sci-fi like the next guy, but if I'm in 1955 and they're portraying an accurate version of 2025 or 2026, that's far-fetched. There's no way that'll ever happen. We're only getting better. We're not getting dumber. Oh no. The better we get, the dumber we get. Just wait till AI takes effect. Then you're going to see some serious issues with logical and critical thinking, because people will just stop thinking. They've already stopped reading books. They've already stopped writing in cursive. They've already stopped knowing how to read a regular clock. Why do we don't need that anymore? Why do we need to learn that? I can just look at my phone and see the time. I don't have to work out a shorthand and a longhand. That's what old people do. Old people think for themselves. I don't want to be old, so therefore I don't want to think for myself. That's the future. Yikes. In that case, I much prefer to be an old person. I have no envy to be young, if that's what it means to be young, is to just stay stupid and be proud of it. Wow, definitely not a future I saw coming, but there it is. But whether or not I choose to participate is my choice. I'm not a victim. Andy says that Buc-ee's is opening June 22nd. That's a day before my birthday. And I know Mara would go on day one, but I'm not going to go on day. No way. She can go if she wants to. I'm not going. Give that 2 weeks by after the 4th of July, because you know there's going to be a lot of traffic during the holiday. So I'm sure it'll be busy regardless. So wait 2 weeks, get after the first week of July. I'm sure it'll be just at that point normal. I'm sure of it. And all the hype will be worn down and everybody will be on to some new fickle thing of the day. Dave Portnoy does a review of a pizza place. That pizza place is slammed with more business than they can handle for about 8 weeks. Wait 8 weeks. Place will be empty. Everybody will have forgotten about it. They will have moved on to the next thing that Dave Portnoy reviewed. Our society is just use it and throw it away. And it's a level of consumption that I don't think is sustainable. But what do I know? All I can tell you is I'm not joining the sheep and I'm not joining the hype. Let the sheep get it out of their system. It's like zoomies. Get it out of your system, and get out of the way, and then I'll come in when it's relaxed and calm. I'm more than happy to wait 2 weeks. I won't even miss it. I've never had it. And then we'll go check it out. If we like it, we'll go back again. But once we get past the first 2 weeks, I'm sure it'll be easy. Luke says we've deluded our society with children raising children. What more can you expect from this compliance? I suppose that's true. Frankie B says, hey, watch it, Sonny. NY Renal MD said, I heard about Buc-ee's beaver nuggets. Yeah, we'll definitely have to pick up some beaver nuggets. I guess they're like caramel corn puffs, like a Cheeto, like the Cheeto puffs, but they're like smaller in size and have a, uh-oh, here comes Mara. Talking about Buc-ee's, you know, she has to say something.
Oh, I'm so excited. I can't wait.
If you'd have told somebody in 1955 people would get excited about a new gas station opening. What?
No. It's like an adventure park.
There's no rides.
An amusement park of lots of random
It's
crap
shopping.
that you don't need but you want.
It's like a shopping mall that sells gas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the big giant, and clean bathrooms, and I mean, what more could you ask for?
We went to this little gas station once, and it said clean restrooms, and I stopped in there, and the restroom was just nasty and disgusting. And there was this other guy, and I said to the other guy, I said, didn't the sign say clean restrooms? And he goes, yeah, I think it was a request. I think he was right. That was the funniest thing anybody's ever said to me. Yeah, I think it was a request. When you see the sign that says wet floor, I think it's warning you to be careful where you step because it's slippery. I don't think it's a request that they want you to wet the floor. But maybe they do. I'm not sure. Sometimes we might be interpreting the signs wrong. But Buc-ee's makes a lot of their own snacks. It's not just the beaver nuggets. Those are the more popular. They even sell little Buc-ee's beaver plushie that people want to buy those too. Like it's such a loyalty brandness, a brand loyalty awareness that they're creating to find out it's a gas station. It's like, really? You're this excited about a gas station? It's a gas station. Yeah, but it's also like a shopping mall. It's got a food court, several food courts. It's got snacks, it's got clothes, it's got accessories. It's the size of a city block of shopping. How much space do you think it takes for 100 fuel pumps? So if they got 100 fuel pumps outside of the building, how big is the building? That'll give you some idea of how big Buc-ee's is. And I'm looking forward to checking it out, and most importantly, to trying the food. I could care less about the gas. It's not like I'm waiting at a pump here in the city. The gas stations around here have like regular 30, 40 pumps. When Corey Fruitman from Instant House Call came out from Canada, he was amazed by a few things here in America that I didn't even think about. First thing is we drove over to Walmart. And as we were driving, I stopped to get gas, just at a regular gas station. And his mouth was just hanging open. I go, what? It's a gas station. He goes, in Canada, we don't. He's like, how many pumps are at this gas? I said, well, I think there's 4. No, there's 2 for each side of the aisle, and there's like 8 aisles, so that's 24. He says, Canada, you're lucky to get 4. And like, we have gas stations like this, but they're on the outskirts of town. You're in the middle of the city, and this is how big your gas. I go, well, it's a big city. They're busy. Then we go to Walmart, and he goes, I can't believe how cheap beer is here. I go, really? He goes, yeah, in Canada, they're not allowed to sell it below $1 a bottle. The government says you cannot lower the price any lower than that. So the fact that you can buy beer here in the States, you can get multiple bottles or multiple cans for $1, that's not even legal in Canada. And he didn't know that. And I didn't know that that was a thing in Canada. On the other hand, he's got free health care, so I'll trade him any day of the week. But I was really intrigued by his impression of America, living day-to-day life, and I don't think anything of it. And he's just like, whoa, this is incredible. It's just a beer. And look at the price. And he's like, this is a big deal. Look at how many pumps you have at the gas station. Okay, that's pretty much every gas station. Not in Canada. So I'm always tickled by, somebody comes into the country and they see how wide the freeway is. I can't believe this freeway has 8 lanes of traffic all on one side and another 8 lanes. That's 16 lanes of traffic. We don't have that much space that we can build roads. I've never seen roads this wide in my life. They're like, and I'm like, it's just a freeway. I don't know why you're making a big deal about it. But come to Europe sometime, Carey, and I'll show you why. Frankie wants to know if Mara, hey Mara, if Mara can eat the food at Buc-ee's. I don't know where she went. Here comes the cat. Frankie wants to know, is there anything at Buc-ee's you can eat?
So that is a great question. However, since they have like an in-house, I don't know, butcher counter, whatever they make in-house, as long as it's not covered in some sugary sauce, I might be able.
She could do the brisket before they put sauce on it. She can have the protein, but I don't think she'll like the texture.
They have a wall of like beef, which I'm
beef
not
jerky.
a big fan of.
Beef jerky often has sugar in it.
Right. And if there's some that doesn't, that might be an option.
There's probably sandwiches you could take the bread off of.
Correct.
Or have them just make it with a lettuce wrap. You got to stay away from the carbs. The carbs turn into sugar, and almost all bread is bad.
Right. So, but from their snacks, or like even their coffee, I can get coffee with it.
Oh, she'll go all that way. If it's good coffee, oh, I'm in trouble.
So, but I would say probably 90% would say I just want to go for the experience.
Free smells.
Maybe the coffee.
I guess they have pies and cakes and cookies. They're all baked. But you've got the free smells of that stuff baking. They're making it all day.
So that I do love. I do love the experience of what it smells like, what it looks like.
Fudge, all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's massive. And again, you'd have to look at some YouTube video reviews here of people doing walkthroughs. And they're usually 20, 40 minutes long. That's how big the store is. And even then, you're only getting a... It's like when I went to Burning Man. There'd be no way I can show you Burning Man. One person at Burning Man for a week can see maybe 10% of the whole thing. That's if you're busy trying to see it all. You maybe could get to 20% if you really took all the fun out of it. You just wanted to check out every camp and every piece of artwork. You wouldn't be able to see a fifth of it in 7 days. It's too big. There's too much. But that's what keeps people coming back year after year. Every year is different. Sometimes you'll see some familiar things from the year before, but a lot of times even those things don't come back. They may just be a one-time art installation that they quite often will burn down rather than pack it up and take it home. They'll just set it on fire. It is Burning Man. And then that piece of art, if you weren't there to see it, it never existed. Schrodinger's cat kind of the deal there. So, yeah, I think she's really just there for the atmosphere, not so much for the food, but I'm sure there'll be some things she can eat there for sure.
I want to go because I'm obsessed with those really large, crazy
Yeah, well, when we road trip, she tends to like the bigger gas stations because the restrooms and the overall maintenance of those gas stations doesn't seem in any area of neglect. So, she's got a bladder to the size of a thimble. So we're stopping.
It's also an adventure of all the weird, random crap that they sell.
Oh, we found some really cool stuff on the road. We found some beef jerky I've never seen before. New Mexico makes a really thin, dry beef jerky that Mara says is like eating paper. I love it. And it's, I guess, an Albuquerque thing or a New Mexico thing I didn't know of. And then, of course, the Hatch chilies, when you go there during Hatch chili season, oof, getting that in New Mexico fresh like that, if you like that kind of thing. But also, as we drive through other as we drive through other states and we see different cultures, there are foods that take Michigan. Michigan has a city called Hamtramck, which is a large Polish population. So there's a lot of traditional Polish food available there. Some really good stuff. Sometimes we're driving through a place like St. Louis that we don't know a lot about, their culture. And then there's a place, the grocery store in St. Louis has a barbecue grill. Like on the weekend, they're barbecuing up St. Louis style ribs and selling them for like $6 a rack, some ridiculously cheap price. And it's like, well, I'm in St. Louis. Barbecue ribs sounds like a thing. If I'm going through Kentucky or Tennessee, I got to get the fried chicken. You know, if you're in the South, there's just certain cultural foods that are sort of replicated. Like I can go to Portillo's Chicago-style hot dogs here in I think it's Peoria, Arizona. That is a chain of Chicago, one of the biggest Chicago hot dog chains in Illinois, called Portillo's. But you're not in Chicago. So Portillo's is fine. I like it just fine. But when you take it out of Chicago, there's still a piece missing that I can't really explain it. But it's good. It's not the same as eating it in Chicago, even if it's the same meat, even if it's the same everything. Once you move it to Phoenix, you have a Phoenix culture with this one building of Chicago, and everything outside of the building isn't Chicago, and therefore the people inside they don't have that Chicago culture inside, the customers. So the overall experience, for me anyway, isn't as good. It's better than nothing, all right? So if the choice is I can go get a hot dog somewhere, or I can go to Portillo's and get a Chicago-style dog, or I can take the time and the money to drive to Chicago, obviously that would be a very expensive hot dog. So the local Portillo's is a compromise. But I will tell you, when you're at the place that's famous for that food and you're eating it there versus somewhere else where they've opened up, you know, a chain, let's say they've opened a franchise, it just, something about the atmosphere has some effect on me. So if I go to Las Vegas and I eat at the Anchor Bar and I get wings, they are not good. But I'll bet you if I was in Buffalo, New York, and I went to the Anchor Bar and had wings, they'd probably be the best wings I ever had. And it has to do with the atmosphere, the energy, the culture. I think Buc-ee's is opening in Ohio right around the same time. So they're moving pretty far north from Texas. But you know, Walmart was only in like Arkansas in the South for 15, 20 years before they expanded more to the West Coast. Price Club was all California, Washington, and anybody on the East Coast was like, what the hell's a Costco? Not coincidentally, Sam Walton wanted to buy out Costco to expand into California. And Walmart kind of burned him. Sam Walton burned him. And so the founder of Costco, what's his name? Jim, let me look it up. Jim Sinegal. So Jim Sinegal founded it, and then his partner that he opened it with decided that he wanted to start his own deal, and he opened up. So Jim Sinegal started Price Club, and then his second in charge for many, many years said, I'm going to go do my own thing in Washington, and effectively recreated Costco, recreated Price Club, he called it Costco. And when Jim Sinegal was having some financial issues and was going to have to, looking for a buyer for Costco, or keep getting this all confused, for Price Club, because Sam Walton had already betrayed him once before, Sam Walton came to the table and said, well, you need me now. You don't have a choice. And Jim Sinegal said, this is what my middle finger looks like, and went to the partner that left him to start up Costco and said, why don't you and I join together? Let's get back together again. Let's work together again, because I don't want to sell to Sam Walton. And so that's how Price Club Costco just became Costco. In the meantime, You know, Costco going towards the East Coast, starting at the West, took a number of years. And Sam Walton, starting in the Southeast, moving towards the West, took a lot of years as well. So what Sam did is he said, we'll just open Sam's Club instead. You know, we'll give that middle finger right back to Jim Senegal and we'll do it ourselves. Copy his business model. Just do what he's doing. No original ideas. Just steal his ideas. That's business. So there's some bad blood between them. But Buc-ee's is in that early stage. On the East Coast, they have, and in the South, a big gas station called Wawa. What the hell is a Wawa? Never heard of that in my life. The grocery store, they have a Piggly Wiggly, or there's Publix. We don't have any of that on the West Side. Never seen one ever in my life. Unless I go to Florida or somewhere on the East Coast, I don't know what a Publix is. Is that called Publix? That doesn't sound appealing to shop for groceries at a place called Publix. Wawa? Do they speak English on the other side of this country? Piggly Wiggly? That's the best name you can come. Hey, let's all go down to the Piggly Wiggly. I just anticipate whoever says that's going to have a Southern accent. I don't picture somebody from Michigan or Wisconsin. Oh yeah, we're going to go down to the Piggly Wiggly. I don't see that Norwegian, Scandinavian accent for that name. It doesn't match my brain of cultures. But yet, they are also growing. We may yet have a Wawa on the West Side. We may yet get a Piggly Wiggly. Look at Aldi. The story of Aldi, this German grocery chain, these two brothers started this company, and one wanted to sell cigarettes and one didn't. So he said, well, you take the northern part of Germany and I'll take the southern part of Germany and you can go sell your cigarettes. And they still kept the name Aldi, except there's like an Aldi North and an Aldi South. But they're two separate companies run by brothers who don't see eye to eye on what they should sell. So one of the Aldis, and I can't remember which one it is, I'm sure I can Google it, bought Trader Joe's. So when you're like, oh, look at all the unique stuff Trader Joe sells. Look at all the unique stuff Aldi sells. Did you know that Aldi owned Trader Joe's? And that happened back in the 70s? That's one of the brothers. Is the grocery store chain of Aldi in America that same Aldi that owns Trader Joe's? I don't think it is. I think it's the two brothers. I think the one brother bought Trader Joe's and the other brother, if I'm not mistaken, opened their own grocery stores in America. Let me ask Copilot. Now I got to know. I find this stuff just fascinating. Is the Aldi that owns Trader Joe's the same Aldi that owns grocery stores in USA? It's thinking about it. Short answer, no. The Aldi that owns Trader Joe's is not the same Aldi that runs Aldi grocery stores in the US. Trader Joe's is owned by Aldi Nord, while US Aldi stores are operated by Aldi Sud, which I think is north and south, if I'm not mistaken. They are two separate companies that split decades ago. The confusion comes from the fact that Aldi Nord and Aldi Sud were one family business, founded by brothers Caro and Theo Albrecht in Germany. In the 1960s, the brothers split the company into two independent groups after a disagreement. Both kept the Aldi name, but they have been separate companies ever since. Maybe it's just me. I can eat this stuff up all day. I love this information. It's fascinating to see how these companies are run. When you wouldn't know that as a general consumer shopping at Trader Joe's, you wouldn't think that has anything to do with Aldi. I wouldn't. And if somebody told me, I think, oh, so shopping at Aldi is like shopping at Trader Joe's. Well, no, because that's a different Aldi. What do you mean it's a different Aldi? Oh, there's two different Aldis. But they're both called Aldi? Well, they both start with the word Aldi. Aldi North and Aldi South. Well, why did they do that? It's fascinating. I love that. New York Renal MD said on the East Coast we did not have Fry's Electronics. Well, on the West we didn't have a Micro Center, at least not in Phoenix anyway, not until just this year. Oh, Sheetz, yeah, Sheetz and Royal Farms are other gas stations. That's right, I forgot about Sheetz, and I only know about that because of YouTube videos. Sheetz looks really good. NY Renal MD said an Aldi open near me. It's okay. It seems like a low rent Costco. Well, I'd say Costco is its own thing. Costco is massive. Aldi isn't. Costco has massive quantities. You got to buy in bulk. Aldi, you don't. And Costco sells name brands along with Kirkland, whereas Aldi pretty much only sells Aldi brand. You can't get it anywhere else. So if you like something Aldi makes, it'll be very inexpensive, very high quality, and that'll be the only place you can buy it. But if you like something Costco sells, you could probably buy it somewhere else. Like I don't need a huge giant bottle of ibuprofen from Advil when I can go to Walmart and buy a smaller bottle of Advil. But if it's Kirkland brand, then Kirkland brand you'd have to buy at Costco. But Aldi is mostly just Aldi. And Trader Joe's is mostly just Trader Joe's. They uniquely make their own things, and they sell them very cheap. So Aldi and Trader Joe's are very similar to me. They're very small compared to the types of grocery stores we're used to in America. Pretty limited selection, but where a lot of the grocery stores are all selling exactly the same thing and they're just competing on price, if you want something different, then you got to go to Trader Joe's or Aldi, where they offer unique, or even Costco, where there's only things they make that only they sell. So as much as I love an Oreo cookie, there's times when the last thing I want is an Oreo cookie. It's not that there's anything wrong with it. It's just I'm tired of it. I want something different. So where do you go for something different when everybody sells the same thing? You go to Trader Joe's, you go to Aldi, you go to Costco, and you'll have unique offerings there. Like Costco will sell imported French and Belgian cookies in this example that we can't get anywhere else other than maybe ordering it through international mail. But you could just go to Costco or Aldi or Trader Joe's and you know, I was picking up frozen pizzas in Trader Joe's that are all imported from Italy, but they have Trader Joe's name on it. But they are made in Italy with Italian ingredients, Italian flour, Italian water, frozen, flash frozen, and then packaged and shipped over here. And it's like $4. That's a lot cheaper than going to Naples. And I'm sure it's not as good as going to Naples, but for $4, to have that all imported in, made in Italy, imported in, for the cost of shipping, the packaging, the distribution, for $4, how are they making any money? Shane Perkins mentions Lidl and Aldi have been in Western Maryland. So LIDL is Aldi's competitor in Germany, and they are opening up here in the United States. In Britain, their big grocer is Tesco. That would be like our Kroger. And they were trying to open in the United States. And they came out with a grocery chain very similar to Trader Joe's in size, but it didn't have the Tesco name on it. And they folded. They opened way too many grocery stores. They built them all from ground up. They didn't like buy pre-existing buildings. They would buy the land, build the building, and they did a lot of these. And they were called, because we used to have one down the street, and it didn't last very long. And I wanted to like it, given that it was Tesco. Let's see, Tesco grocery chain USA. Fresh, something fresh. What's it called? Tesco does not currently operate any grocery stores. The British retail giant previously entered the US market in 2007 with a chain of small format grocery stores called Fresh and Easy in Arizona, California, and Nevada. Tesco completely exited the US market in 2013, just 6 years after suffering significant financial losses. So they didn't even make it close to the pandemic. I thought the pandemics would put them out, but no, they were 6 years before the pandemic. Why did it fail in America? Mismatched store sizes. American consumers are accustomed to large weekly bulk shopping trips at massive supermarkets, but Fresh and Easy stores were much smaller, more like a convenience store or a gas station. But, so was Aldi and Trader Joe's, and they do just fine, so that doesn't work. Customer frustration. Stores relied heavily on self-checkout. That's true. But so does Aldi. Aldi, you got to check yourself out and bag your... They don't even have bags. You either bring your own bag or they've got empty boxes from product they've stocked, and they leave the boxes for you to take. That way they don't have to throw them out. You can get it home and you can throw it out. Poor locations. Many stores were built on inconvenient sides of busy streets. That's definitely true in my certain circumstance. And bad timing. The launch coincided perfectly with the 2007-2008 financial crisis. That's exactly what it was. I knew there was some event that took place. It was just bad timing. And that hit the Western U.S. particularly hard and caused shoppers to seek deep discounts at big box retailers. After Tesco pulled out, the Fresh and Easy brand briefly changed ownership, but the remaining stores were shuttered and filed for bankruptcy in 2015. Today, Tesco focuses entirely on its operations in the UK and other international markets only. Yeah. I thought when I heard Tesco was opening, I couldn't wait because I thought it would be stocked with British items, and it wasn't. It was stocked with the same items I can get anywhere else. What was the point? Even my Kroger grocery chain has a little section of an aisle dedicated to British food. Or I can go to World Market, and World Market has all kinds of British and Asian imported goods and Italian imported goods that, is a pretty small selection, but still more than Tesco ever offered. You'd think a British chain would have the connections to distribution of British goods. That's what I thought. I was wrong because they just sold the same goods as everybody else. So that's what took the wind out of the sails for me. If I can get the same things at Fresh and Easy that I can go get at the Kroger grocery store, why am I going to Fresh and Easy? I wanted to see a British-backed market with British items. And apparently there's not much call for that here in Arizona anyway. I don't know why. One of the big problems you've got is food expiration dates. So if people from Britain want a Jaffa cake and they want to get it here in the States, the amount of time it takes to get it here and the amount of time it's good for before it expires, half of that time is eaten just in shipping, meaning you have half the amount of time to enjoy that, and the store owner has half the amount of time to sell it. So for that reason, inventory will be very limited. Same with potato chips. I can order potato chips from London and they'll take 3 weeks to get here. So by the time I get them, I might have 2 or 3 weeks to eat them. And the thing is, I order a lot of them, right? I'm not going to just order one bag. And now I'm under the clock. You better hurry up and eat these. So if you're a grocery chain and you're bringing in food that, your expiration date's getting cut in half because of delays in shipping, it makes more sense you're going to sell local items. So the fact that it was owned by British Tesco had nothing to do with what they sold. For that reason, at least that's how I understand it. Frank Jimmy says the world's largest Buc-ee's is set to open near me in St. Lucie, in Florida? Where's St. Lucie? Or is that pronounced St. Lucie? Probably St. Lucie. Let me ask Google. Sounds like Florida. Southeastern portion of Florida, known as the Heart of the Treasure Coast. About 120 miles south of Orlando, 60 miles north of West Palm Beach. Pronunciation of the Florida county and city are pronounced Lucy. Okay, I got it right. Lucci would be the sound typical for the Italian name Lucia, but it is not how the Florida locations are named or referred to by locals. Florida has some of these Indian names, Michigan too, by the way, these Native American names of cities and streets that I'm not quite sure. Okeechobee, is that it? Ocala? Kissimmee? Why are you kissing me? I'm pretty sure. You're not from around here, are you? How did you know? Because you said Kissimmee. Yeah, when I travel to Florida, there's all kinds of names. I'm like, that could go either way. I'm not sure. Best not to say anything at all. I'll take Fort Lauderdale, Miami Beach. Those I got, no problem. Orlando, easy. Sheboygan, yeah, that's, if you've never been to Michigan and you see like Mackinac, Sheboygan, what else do they have? They have some crazy Native American and French. That's the other thing. Detroit was founded, or Michigan was founded by French. So Cadillac is the founder of Detroit, Pierre Cadillac. And then Pontiac would be a Native American. So you have this mixture of French and Native American words. You don't have a lot of by the time we got to the West, there's a lot of Spanish influence, but there's also just Bob's Road, you know. There's also just like the city names, like the most common street name I think in America is Main Street. You have any idea how many main streets there are in the United States? They're everywhere, and one has nothing to do with the other. But it's not a Native American name, and it's not a French name. It's just Main Street. I wonder if I ask Copilot how many main streets. I'm going down a rabbit hole. There are tens of thousands of main streets in the United States. The most authoritative count showing 21,688. Oh my gosh. The United States Postal Service reported in 2024 21,688 streets in America named Main, making it the single most common street name in the entire country. But see how easy that is to pronounce? It's a nice English American word. All right. Well, we've streamed far from the content. Strayed far from the content. Well, we've streamed or straying. I think that'll wrap it up. That's going to be it for today. Thanks to everyone for making these videos possible, and for all of our members, and of course Mara for all the work she does in the background. Thumbnail design, video descriptions, links. She takes care of all of the administrative tasks. If you want to reach out to us, we'd love to hear from you. You can send an email. Right here is our email address. You can reach out anytime. If you want some help with something or a little advice with something, if we can, we will do our best to provide the answers you're looking for. Or the answers you might not be looking for, but we do our best to be honest and direct and to be as helpful as we can, even if our helpful advices don't do that. You're going down a road that's going to be filled with frustration and headache. We're not telling you not to do it. We would advise you in those cases. We wouldn't recommend it. And at that point, you know, if you want to do it, you're on your own. But there's no harm in asking, regardless. And our intention is always to be helpful. So that's how you can reach us at any point. And Sable's got a double feature today. She appears on our thumbnail and on our email address. A stray cat that has moved in and is not leaving. So I guess she lives here now. That's one way to end up owning a pet, is when the pet decides to own you. I didn't even realize I was up for adoption. Thank you for all of the super chat and the contributions today. I want to shout out another thank you to these generous folks. That is our friend Buster, of course, Charlie Purdy, Mark Gaines. I also want to give a shout out to our friend Frankie B. He's been very supportive and giving us that content we did yesterday. As I mentioned, I don't think there'll be a public video on that because I don't know what I did. I'm not sure what fixed it. I'm pretty sure it's one of two things. So if we get another secure boot error machine in here, I will try one of those two things first. At that point, when I get some definitive information, evidence that I can prove, we'll go public. At this point, it's too premature. I'm not sure what fixed it. And I'm still waiting on some batteries which haven't arrived yet, that are the type of battery I showed you in here, where it's a battery, it's a 2032 button cell battery or coin cell that's wrapped with a shrink wrap and has wires coming off of it. I hate those. Why can't they just give me a little socket I can pop the battery out, pop a new one in? We'd already be done. So because I don't have those, I ordered them yesterday off Amazon. They're like $1 a piece for 10 of them. And they're supposed to be here today. My hope is when I plug that in on Frankie's computer, that resolves everything else. And Frankie also needed a BIOS update. But it was running fine without it. So it wasn't that critical, but it may have prevented this problem. So now we know. But once the problem occurred, we couldn't get the BIOS update on there. It was too late. It's like trying to buy insurance on a car you just crashed. You needed to do that the other order. But regardless, we got it there. I'm not sure how. And there may not be much follow-up on that, because at this point, if the battery resolves it, there's no other video to make. At that point, we can just send it right back to Frankie, and I'm sure he's anxious to get it back. On the other hand, if it doesn't fix it, then we'll talk to Frankie about, does it matter to you that, the machine powers on when you plug it in? If it doesn't matter to you, there's nothing wrong with it. If it does matter to you, we've got some alternative machines we can replace it with if he wants to do that. And that'll be a private discussion if it's necessary, which I don't know until I get the batteries. With that, that's going to wrap it up for today. Thank you guys again for hanging out. Thanks for your support. Thank you to all the members. And thank you for everybody just being in our community, hanging out here. And we love having friendly folks, whether they're green supporters or blue moderators or just white viewers. Their names are in white. We appreciate all the kindness in the community. Frankie says, did I open up his computer to take the battery out? That was my plan, but when I looked at it last night, I realized I could grab a pair of my needle nose pliers and this little screwdriver. Where's my pliers? And there would have been no way for me to film it. There's a lip on the case of Frankie's Minis Forum NPB7, and the battery sits underneath the lip. So I was able to grab the wire connector, or the actual connector part, and unplug it from the board with these needle nose pliers. And then the battery is stuck on top of the USB ports below the ledge of the lip around the edge. So I thought I was going to take the board out. But I thought, I think I can grab a little screwdriver and lift up on that sticky tape. And then as I started to lift it, grab it with the needle nose pliers and slide it out. That's what I ended up doing. So I did not have to take the computer apart. And putting it in should be even easier, because when we get the new ones, assuming I've got the right connector, then I just use the needle nose to help me align that connector. It will already have tape on the back of the battery. Just peel back the film. And again, I could use these needle nose pliers to push it back and then push down on it with the pliers this way. Put some force down so that adhesive will stick. I should not have to remove the motherboard. Now, removing the board would make it easier to access the battery and have full control with my hands. But by using these two little utility tools here, we can get in there and extract it that way. And it really wasn't a big deal. It also may not be a big deal to take the board out either, to be honest. I'm just being lazy. Just being lazy. So why not be? Why work harder than you have to? If I didn't have those tools, or if I had bigger hands, or my dexterity wasn't as good, it was always an option to just pull the board out. And then you have the whole raw board and you can access it 360, no obstruction. But the obstruction wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. So yeah, I got the old battery out, no problem. And I expect the new battery will go in and no disassembly will be required. You just got to be a little creative with the tools. It is a 2032 battery. And I don't, my battery tester that I have here, where is it? I have a voltage meter, and I could poke holes in the insulation to test the battery, but it's probably not going to be reusable only because of age. So here's Frankie's battery right here. And if we peel back, because I don't think we'll reuse it, if we peel back the insulation, the battery says it's 2032, and that's the wire off of it. That's the sticky tape on the bottom. If the connector on the batteries I ordered is the wrong connector, I could always very gently remove the wires out of this connector and move the connector. So that I want to preserve just in case. Or I could go back on Amazon and shop again until I get one with the right connector. But I think I got the right one. I just don't know for sure until I have it in my hands. But if we cut away this insulation on the battery, and you'll see this a lot on mini PCs and on laptops, and I just wish they would just give us a regular old battery tray. I imagine this must be cheaper for them. I can't imagine why else they would make it more difficult. Because this is a consumable part. You will, all of us, will have to eventually replace the battery, and they made it difficult. It won't have to be done often, but it will likely have to be done at least once, depending on how long you own the computer. And they often don't use very high-end batteries like Duracell or Energizer. We could take a regular battery, we could get this rubber plastic ring off of it, remove and desolder these wires, and then solder them back onto a replacement. I'm not willing to work that hard for a $1 battery. But I'm curious with the battery tester, now that we've got the cover removed, if we can read this battery, see what condition it's in. I think it's negative. So the reader, because of the plastic ring around it, try to get that ring. Guess I'll just cut it off. We're not going to use it anyway. Yeah, unfortunately, it's just a film. It's not an actual O-ring. It's just a film. I mean, if you're good with electronics and you have the time and the patience, you could absolutely remove the wires with a soldering iron and solder them onto another battery, and then just run some electrical tape over it. But for $1, why not just buy it already manufactured? But with that ring removed, now we should be able to read this. Oh boy. According to this, I'll just show you what the results are. Take a look. Let me grab another battery to show you what it should look like. Here's a regular 2032 battery right here. And when I place it in like this, we should see the voltage appear. Right? It's using the power from the battery to power the meter. The meter doesn't have any batteries in it. This top part, this is the positive side, and this part here is negative. So if you're curious, and it will be labeled as such on the battery. It'll say there's a positive on that side. Now let's take Frankie's battery right here, and let's put that in and watch the result. I might as well be sticking a piece of plastic in there. It's not registering enough voltage to even read the voltage. This thing doesn't require much. Make sure we're metal to metal. That's why I thought that little rubber ring or that ring around it was preventing us from making contact, because that's what it was doing. But when I took that ring off of it, that battery is completely flat. There's nothing left in it. That is a consumable that's been fully consumed. There's nothing left. So there's definitely We diagnosed that correctly. My thought was, look, the unit's already a couple years old, so the battery isn't going to be like new anymore. Even if it's still good, it's not good as new. And for $1, let's just replace it while we've got it. So I ordered those last night from Amazon. I ordered 10 of them. So when we're done, we'll have 9 extras for future builds or future repairs. And they'll have the same connector. So if we have one that has a different connector, it's possible that you can get in here and slide the wires out of that little connector, but you better have really good vision and really fine tools to do it. You're best to just get the right connector on it already. That way you just plug it in and go. Yeah, that's completely dead. I didn't know that till now. I just figured, let's just change it. It's already a couple years old. Like I said, even if it still had 2.7 volts on it, you'd still better off replacing it. They should last on average about 5 years. Now, if you leave the machine unplugged where it's not getting power from the wall, then these will last maybe 2 years. They don't last very long when they're being leaned on that heavily for that period of time. But just as a battery backup for when you lose power from the wall, it doesn't matter if the machine's on or off. As long as it's plugged in, it doesn't need this. So that implies this machine, not this one, but Frankie's machine, must have sat for a while in a powered off state. And it could have happened before I even got it. I don't know how long it sat on a shelf. I don't even know how long I had it before I sent it to Frankie. Because when I have it, it's sitting on a shelf powered off. So that's doomed. And it's not a name brand. The manufacturer listed on this is probably some name I've never heard of. And the ones I ordered from Amazon will be some name I never heard of too. This says Malak, M-A-L-A-K. Made in Japan. And this one I was just testing with. This is Duracell. These will cost like $3 a piece. These are like $1 a piece. Is there really any difference? I don't know. Frank Jimmy says, hello, Polly. That is a dead parrot. Wakey, wakey. Oh, he was just getting up and you stunned him. Don't get me started. Thank you guys for hanging out. We'll talk, Frankie. I'll have some more information later this evening, assuming Amazon doesn't postpone the delivery. As far as I know, it's still coming today, the batteries. But that makes me feel better. When that's completely dead, that's likely going to solve the power on issue we're having, where what happens with Frankie's computers, the minute you apply power to it, it turns on. But it's not supposed to do that. It should wait until you hit the power button. And a bad BIOS battery will cause that. So will setting up fast startup or ultra fast startup in Windows. That can do that too. But the power state in the BIOS is set. In the BIOS of Frankie's Miniform MBD, and in his mini PC, the BIOS says if you lose power, when power comes back on, do you want the computer to stay off or to go to whatever state it was in prior? So if it was on and you lost power and then the power comes back on, if you say put it in the state it was in prior, then it'll return back on. If it was off when you lost power and you put power in, it stays off. Or you can say just always stay off no matter what. And I set the BIOS to say return to whatever state you were in. And then I shut the computer off, so it was in an off state. Then I unplugged it from power, plugged power back in, it turned back on. It's not supposed to do that. And that is usually most commonly caused by a bad BIOS battery. And that checks out. Frankie also said it wasn't saving the date and time correctly. That is always going to be a BIOS battery controlling that date and time. So everything fell in line with the typical symptoms. And these are cheap, but I don't have any. So that's what Amazon's for. Just order it. It ordered it last night. It'll be here today. And hopefully everything's resolved. But we'll wait and see. Frankie says, okay, thanks. So I was right. Yes, Frankie, you were right. You were very right. You called it, because Frankie said, I think I've got a bad BIOS battery. And you know me, I'm like, well, maybe. Till I see it, you could say whatever you want. But yeah. Yeah, he predicted that correctly. All right, guys, thank you for watching. We'll see you all again tomorrow with the Firebat laptop review. We are not a Firebat channel, and we're not becoming one. You may never see another Firebat video again. I don't know, but it's just coincidence that Tuesday we have a Firebat, and tomorrow on Wednesday we have a Firebat laptop. But that's just because they seem to offer really good value. Is it true? Join us tomorrow and find out. And we'll look forward to seeing you here in our live chat. We'll be live at 1 o'clock Pacific time, as we always are, and we hope you'll be there too. Until then, bye for now.